Everybody's out to get you and you're acting like it's strange. Cause being human's so peculiar, we're too scared to make a change. Humans so peculiar, we're too scared to make a change. Shakara, ha, Shakara, ha, Shakara, ha, Shakara, ha, Shakara.
And we are live once again from the back room of a shuttered Somali daycare. This is Library of Mass Destruction. I am your host, Capitalisimo, and with me, as per usual, is Christopher Sandbatch. How are you doing today, sir?
Low vibrational holiday energy Sandbatch.
Low vibrational holiday Sandbatch.
I get like the worst seasonal affective disorder imaginable, and like I'm just like not. This is a hard week for me.
Why's that?
For lots of reasons I don't really want to get too into. But
you hate the year being renewed.
I don't like the end of the year because I'm always like caught up. I get overly focused on the things that I wanted to do this year that didn't happen. And then also there are some birthdays this week that are like
tough for you.
Yeah, they're tough for me.
It's not like the third week in April with birthdays that everyone can enjoy.
Everybody loves those birthdays.
Everybody loves those birthdays. But hey, you know what? Despite the birth of Christ bothering you so much.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's not the one I'm talking about.
That's not the one. There's another.
I know lots of deep Capricorns for some reason, and
deep
like
Capricorns.
Yeah, it's deep Capricorn season. But you know what is sort of interesting? I've got a bee in my bonnet.
Oh, really? What's grinding your gears now?
Yeah, you know what grinds my gears? You know what really gets me angry? What is that from?
I thought grinds my gears was from Family Guy.
It's a sketch from something. Is it? You know what grinds my gears? Maybe it is Peter Griffin. Yeah. No, it's totally Peter Griffin.
He's doing like the Andy Rooney thing.
You know what grinds? You know what makes you angry?
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I actually love the Andy Rooney old man yells at cloud segments from 60 Minutes.
It's great. This shit is great. But let's see.
Black people.
For some reason, the entire world has woken up and decided it wants to read Frankenstein.
Okay.
I have no idea why, but like all of the
famously written by Mary Shelley's husband.
By Mary Shelley's husband and their third lover. But on Twitter, I make listicles all the time. And anytime I touch novels, I always put it at, it's always on, because I do that thing where I'll separate my favorite from what I think is the most important. And it usually makes both. Fair. And I think it's the most important novel ever written in English. And I'm not sure why people have just all decided that I see people reading it everywhere, and I accost them in public and I ask them, I query them as to why they're reading Frankenstein. And they usually don't know, but it's happened like 10 times in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And it caused me to dive back into Frankenstein. And I have become fixated on this novel because there was something that I learned about it that I didn't realize was the case. Because like I had really only read it once, and it was when I was an undergrad, and I was pretty hungover for the most of the romantic section. But you know, I read it and I was like, oh, this shit's incredible. But what I didn't realize is that it exists in 2 versions. And the 2 versions are wildly different from one another. And I had no idea which one I read first. It has occurred to me that like this very foundational story of like a sort of the birth of a sort of modern genre, for birth of a total mode of being, exists
some
in 2
kind
different,
of golem.
Yeah, exists in 2 different forms. And like people don't know which they read.
Yeah. That's right.
That's wild. I'm like, what are the sociological effects of this? And so that's been my obsession for the last week or so.
About who read which version?
Well, yeah, like because I mean,
this is a related but only tangentially Reader's Digest versions of things.
Damn. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's totally true. Like,
every boomer who is a casual reader has used to read the Reader's Digest version of things.
Dude, I remember I was pretty old before I realized what the fuck Reader's Digest was, and I'm like, wait a second, it's this like thing you can read so you can like bluff at the keychain party about having read the actual book.
Correct. Yeah, it's like reading the plot synopsis on Wikipedia before that existed.
Right, but it like the whole thing smells like gelatin salad and conversation pits, you know, and like turtlenex and like swinger parties. It's great.
I do love a conversation pit though. I'm gonna tell you that's real. Hey, before I miss it, Randall Shirker right out of the gate sent us a $10 soupy soup. Can't wait for the birthday DDD stream. Also, make sure some of this money goes to getting Sandbatch a decent pair of boots. You will need it for the coming apocalypse.
Has it become? I like those boots. Like I just threw them out today.
We're not made for walking.
I just threw them out today. They were just no longer suitable.
They were not suitable. They were not suitable bootables the last time I saw them either.
Right.
But
well, did you see? You saw them after I climbed the mountain.
Before and after. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like I climbed the mountain, and I mean the shape of them was just fucked from then on.
I mean, they kind of looked like most people do not know what we're talking about, but they were a pair of cowboy boots that were too large for his feet, and because of that, the front of the toes had curled up at an alarming angle, so that they looked kind of like some sort of elfin cowboy boots.
Yes.
Like.
What's funny that they weren't too big whenever I bought them.
Like a Christmas elf shoe.
Yeah, they did look like that, but they weren't that big when I bought them. I wore them so much they just fucking stretched. You know.
You just blew them out. You just gaped the shit out of your boots. Well,
bring Distributus on and call it Diddler's Green. Oh my God. Oh, I just suddenly remembered what our actual subject here is.
Yeah. It's gonna be so bad.
Welcome to Library of Mass Destruction. Is the only podcast where we explicitly torture our listeners with like in-depth academic discussions of pedophilic sex cults.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that I'm a little alarmed at the fact that us starting this book has gotten daycares into the news, because I can't help but notice that, you know, we really started into season 3, and then Nick Shirley drops his documentary on the vacant Somali daycares all scattered throughout Minnesota. Really only visits like 5 of them, and they're all within a couple blocks of each other. So
If there are no Somali, where are the Somali children?
Not in fucking daycare.
You're not going to convince me that there are no Somali children. Where the fuck are they?
There's certainly Somali children, but their parents don't have to work, so why would
would
they be in daycare?
It's a good point.
Yeah, why would they be in daycare? But you know, I think that maybe it's a thing that happens to podcasts that happen on Wednesdays, right? Because I don't know if you're a TLE listener, but Timeline Earth frequently causes events to happen in the real world, and I think it might just be the time slot.
It's a hyperstition.
They're hyperstitioning things. Bird says something, and lo and behold, it will occur. The problem is that he's not serious when he says it, so it's not a real prediction. So I'm thinking it's the time slot. Unfortunately. Although you know what I'm gonna say when we talk about something on LMD, a far less bad version of it than arises in the real world. So you know,
we have not yet predicted a school shooting.
I wish that the types of things that we were talking about was just like fraud and money laundering. But unfortunately, we're talking about a far worse thing that you can do.
We interrupt your holiday reverie to talk about satanic pedo sex cults.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. There is no Auld Lang Syne for these kinds of crimes. No Auld Lang Syne for this kind of crime.
Yeah, I was thinking I'm supposed to be the poet here.
Yeah. These will not be forgot, and they will be frequently brought to mind unbidden. This will stick with you. Also, I want to thank Mike of Pole for retweeting this stream, because I'm pretty sure that this is the worst possible thing for such a gentle soul to listen to. So, I guess we'll get into it. We're going to be doing part of the Finders cult today. We're gonna be starting it. So it's which is a
cult that I know actually nothing about.
Which is a cult that I was raised in. No, I was just gated as a kid, so it's fine. Like it's fine. Didn't get diddled, thank God. So I'm straight. Randall Shirker says, Jolly on West laughs from hell as he DDDs you with this information. Yes, he is can you imagine it? You know, obviously, the souls of sinners are merely tortured for all eternity in perdition. But can you imagine if, as in many modern sorts of cosmology, they were able to actually climb the ranks and become demons? Because Jolly West would be at the top of the hierarchy in like 3 weeks, right? It's just
he might be, but there's like the problem here is that what if he's an angel?
Oh no! Well, he killed him. He sort of killed himself. And he sort of got murdered. No, he killed himself. So
it's true. He killed Tusco. You can't be going around killing elephants.
Buddy, on the list of his crimes, I don't know if. All right, look, I'd trade a lot of vagrants for one Tusco, to be honest.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But on the list of Jolly on West's crimes, I don't know that the elephant murder and the trauma that he subjected poor Judy the elephant to. She was a real one, a real ride or die. I don't know that is even in the top, I don't know, 50. Right?
Yeah, well, it depends on depends on your perspective.
Okay. In what perspective is the callous?
People care about animals, you know.
I mean, I care about animals. Oh, Randall Shirker says Terry Davis has confirmed elephants are God's favorite animal. Okay, all right. That is a data point in favor of the Tusco thesis of Jolly West being in hell. So
the Tusco thesis of Jolly West being in hell.
Yeah, what? That's a completely coherent sentence for viewers of this show. Micah Pohl is in the chat, says, bro, I'm balding and reached the point in my life where I'm vibe coding with an 8-agent vibe code setup and spent all my money on a new CNC. I'm invincible. This stream cannot affect me.
Oh my God,
Wow.
we're in the same place,
last words.
Yeah. Mike and I though we're in the same place. So like we're gonna.
I am a fucking energy vampire for my co-hosts. I swear to God.
We're all vibe coding.
All right. Chapter 5. It couldn't happen here. Prosecutor Dan Casey, did you exercise any kind of mind control over your wife in order to get her to have sexual contact? Wow. This is a Rodney Dangerfield joke setup. Frank Fuster, if I had that power, you think I would use it against, I don't. I've never. I'm a normal human being. A normal human being who doesn't have sexual contact with his wife is what he's saying. All right.
What was the Pierce Morgan Nick Fuentes interview where Pierce Morgan was essentially calling Fuentes gay for not having slept with his Pierce Morgan's wife?
I mean, he would be the only straight man who should wait. So Pierce Morgan is a flagrant cuckold. Just for those who aren't up on the lore, his wife thirst traps on Instagram all the time and posts about stooping the pool boy. But
I didn't know that.
What? You didn't know that? Oh my God! It is
not know that.
She posts like. I mean, she's like 55 and she posts like a 28-year-old or like I'm sure that your wife is my wife. Yeah. But yeah. Let's see. Randall Shirker says he activated his brain horns but failed to astral project himself against Tyrone. It's a reference. That is a reference to Cyclomancy, the secret of psychic power control by Frank Rudolph Young. Yes. He has to visualize a juicy steak to power up his psychic power center and use his brain horns to project prowess into his wife's mind so that she doesn't fuck Tyrone. And that's almost a direct quote from the book. So if you need a bro science psychic manual that is extremely interested in not getting cucked, highly recommended. It is a rare out of print book though, so good luck finding it. All right. On August 8th, 1984, Bobby Dean stood on the front lawn of the Fuster home in the Country Walk housing development, a picture-perfect planned community of relatively upscale suburban homes in Dade County, Florida. A Florida man he was. By all appearances, this was a small slice of paradise. Was Bobby Dean the name of Nick Cage's character in Wild at Heart?
I don't think so.
It feels like it. It feels like it should have been. Speaking of guys with much younger wives, Nick Cage's wife is like 32 years younger than him and Korean. And I saw a photo of them together, he was wearing a snakeskin jacket.
Sailor Ripley is the name.
Sailor Ripley. Wow, yeah. I was way off.
Yeah, we weren't even close.
I was way off. Wow, Samsonite. I was way off. All right. By all appearances, this is a small slice of paradise, an oasis untouched by the grim realities of American society. On this day, however, Dean had a loaded gun tucked into his waistband, and he fully intended to use it.
Hell yeah.
He was there. You're not fully dressed in Florida without a gun tucked into your waistband. On this day, he was there to finish the job that someone else had failed to complete on December 18th, 1980, when an unidentified assailant had confronted Francisco Fuster Escalona, a.k.a. Frank Fuster, at his place of business and shot him once in the side of the head.
Boom.
That is an awful name. Francisco Fuster Escalona. Frank Fuster. Frank Fuster, the Nut Buster. Fuster survived that attack, which he explained to the police as a botched robbery, though the officers thought it looked more like an attempted execution. Yeah, it sure does. Dean did not get the... How do you fail to rob someone if you've shot them in the side of the head?
Well,
Like, you should successfully rob. I'm just saying, if you've shot them in the side of the head...
lost his brain custard.
Oh, God. He's got it. We got a... what's that idiot? What's that idiot senator who's an ogre? From Pennsylvania. I always forget his name.
Yeah.
Fetterman. Yes. Frankenstein. Yes. Fetterman. We got a real Fetterman going on over here. Yeah, he's the one with the brain damage. I'm the one who can't remember his fucking name.
Brain damage exactly until it comes time to make decisive arguments in favor of Israeli sovereignty, and then it all comes together.
Well, he's reading off a tablet. He has like a speech aid tablet that he carries everywhere, like an actual helmet head.
We literally have a Chat GPT senator.
We do. It's crazy. It's direct line to Mossad. Yeah. Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down? Yes. Four Club says Piers is living his best life. His cuckold horns crowned him Lord of the Forest. Goes to the punch bowl party, doesn't put his keys in. just for the fun. Just wants to watch. Got the comfiest chairs in the corner, Dean did not get the chance to make another attempt. Police were on the scene in short order to arrest him. Fuster himself surrendered to police 2 days later in response to the issuance of an arrest warrant. He had been under investigation following accusations by neighborhood parents that Frank and his wife, Ileana, had been brutally abusing the children who were left in the trusted care of the Fuster's babysitting service, which was run out of their country walk home.
Frank Fuster's trusted babysitting service, said no one ever.
Yeah, no kidding. The Nutbuster
name physiognomy alone just destroyed you there.
The Frank Fuster Nutbuster comment did not age well. It did not survive a paragraph. It didn't survive a single paragraph. Fuster had, shall we say, rather questionable qualifications to run a daycare center. Man, ripped from the headlines, huh? On January 16th, 1969, Fuster fired 2 shots into the chest of a fellow motorist in New York City, killing him instantly. An off-duty police officer was, curiously enough, an eyewitness to the summary execution. Even more curiously, Fuster chambered another round and pointed his gun directly at the armed officer, and yet was not shot. He was arrested, though, and convicted and sentenced before the year was out. On Halloween Day, he was sentenced to a 10-year prison term, but was back on the streets in less than 4, receiving psychiatric care. In November 1982, he was convicted again, this time on charges of committing a lewd assault on a 9-year-old girl. Gross. Lewd assault makes it sound way more fun. But once you know the target, it's not great. Despite that being his second felony conviction, Fuster was sentenced to just 2 years probation. It was while on probation for the child molestation conviction that Fuster and his underage wife, started the babysitting service. So I want to know more about Ileana.
Wife?
Yeah, I want to know more about Ileana.
How can this person in fact be your wife if she is Frank Fuster's baby busters? Oh, so he made it worse.
It's so much worse. Oh God. Fuster's probation officer apparently had no problem with that business venture, even though it violated the terms of Frank's probation by bringing him into unsupervised contact with at least 50 kids, at least 30 of whom later reported being horrifically abused.
That's a lot.
See, the kids not being present at a daycare is by far not the worst possible. Is not even close to the worst thing that could be happening.
We don't even wish that on Somalis.
Yes, we don't. Yes, at least 30 of whom later reported being horrifically abused. Fuster's probation officer also managed to overlook the fact that Frank had self-terminated his court-ordered psychiatric treatment in August 1983. no one really seems to have been too concerned about Fuster's babysitting service, which, in addition to being run by a convicted murderer and child molester, was operating without proper licensing and in violation of local zoning laws, which stated that commercial enterprises were expressly forbidden in the residential community. Nevertheless, the service operated with the full knowledge of the entity managing the complex. In fact, Fuster's service used the name Country Walk Babysitting Service, implying that his was an officially sanctioned service provided by the management. Wow. After Frank's past and present activities were exposed, the management company, Arvida, denied that it had ever any official links to the Fuster operation. Awkwardly phrased sentence. That, of course, was not surprising, given that Arvida was a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, which had little interest in being perceived as having connections to a child molestation operation. The fact would not be the only connection that they had to a child molestation operation, but yeah. The fact remains, however, that the company took no actions against Fuster for the illegal expropriation of the Country Walk name for violating zoning regulations. Dade County also took a hands-off approach to the Fuster business enterprise. Despite the fact that Frank lacked other required licenses, he was issued an occupational license to run the babysitting service.
What is
crazy?
This?
What is it? What is it about being about lackadaisical daycare licensing? Like, what is it? Like, can we just just make sure that they aren't murderers and child abusers? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we even doing here? What's the point of the regulations? Detective Donna Mesnerick was the first police investigator sent to look into the allegations being made by the Country Walk parents. She was openly skeptical of the charges before she even knew what they actually were. I feel like that's tough to establish, right? It's a little tough to say she was skeptical before she knew what the charges were.
Well, I mean, I would be skeptical of any charges relating to me as well.
So it was part of her. The parents felt that she came calling with an unmistakable attitude of disbelief. Nevertheless, do you think that an honest, convicted murderer and child molester who was operating a babysitting service might be a danger to children or others? That's absurd. That's absurd. That's absurd, sir. How could you possibly besmirch the name of this twice convicted felon? Who's currently on probation still has not actually finished his sentence and is also married to an underage girl. Okay. How dare you? Nevertheless, enough evidence was obtained to issue an arrest warrant for Frank Fuster for probation violations. Considerably more evidence could have been gathered had police conducted a timely search of the Fuster home. Facing imminent arrest, Fuster was observed by his County Walk neighbors hastily packing boxes into a white van. Nothing less suspicious than a white van. Fearing the loss of valuable physical evidence, parents contacted Detective Mesnerick, who failed to respond.
But you know what's funny is, like, if it's a New Orleans story, it would be was shoved into a van that was painted like the mystery van from Scooby-Doo.
The mystery mobile?
Yeah, there really is one of those that just there's actually two different competing Astro vans that are painted like the mystery mobile.
I would totally, if I just wanted to spend I don't know how much that would cost. Probably cost $5,000 for a paint job, probably.
They're both serious home brews.
Oh, they're kind of shitty.
Yes.
Well, I'd get a good one, but I would also make sure to get the the brown Great Dane with the black spot on its back. Yeah. And drive high. Look, it's the mystery mobile, man. But yeah. Also, I dress my wife up as Velma. Oh yes. Yes. I mean, Daphne, obviously Daphne. Anyway, where I lost my place here a bit on the mystery mobile aside. Let's see. Who failed to respond. She did execute a search warrant the next day on a home largely, though not entirely, cleansed of incriminating evidence. Once Fuster was safely in custody, the stories told by his child victims grew increasingly disturbing. They told of being forced to play pee-pee and caca games. A photo was later produced. I can't imagine what that would mean. A photo was later produced at trial showing Fuster's young son, Jamie, one of the most severely abused of the victims, sitting in a bathroom smeared thickly with excrement. Wow. Wow. The children also told of being forced to drink magic punch, later revealed by Fuster's wife to be a mixture of Gatorade, urine, and various drugs. It was revealed at trial that a close friend of the Fuster family owned a pharmacy, which provided a reliable source for drugs. His friend was particularly close to Fuster's mother and uncle. What the fuck? Look, I just kind of have a thing for Velma Dinkley from Scooby-Doo, but like, whereas this guy is getting paid by the state to make kids drink piss and drugs. Like, what's going on? What are we doing here?
We need some sort of like investigation into this waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yes, that's the problem. The problem is the money. I thought the worst part was the horrific sexual abuse of children. The young victims also told of having their lives threatened repeatedly and of having their parents' and siblings' lives threatened as well. They had been compelled to play a game, they said, called Who's Gonna Lose Their Head? This game frequently ended with the ritual decapitation of an animal, typically a bird. Finally, perhaps inevitably, the children claimed that they were frequently photographed and videotaped, both while being sexually abused and during occult rituals. Fuster claimed to have never owned any video equipment, and none of it was of course rented, and none of it was found in the belated search of the Fuster home. Jamie Fuster, though, recalled seeing video equipment as well as guns being packed into the boxes that were loaded into the van before Fuster's arrest. Fourth Club says, the more I learn about this Fuster fellow, the less I care for him. Yes. I think that I might have to go to a different babysitter. Yeah. Some investigators have speculated that Fuster was in the business of producing and selling custom, made-to-order child pornography videos. He certainly lived quite well for a self-employed mini-blind installer, who also apparently was running a daycare. He had no problem, for example, coming up with a down payment for his country walk home, and he maintained no fewer than 6 bank accounts. He was in the habit of making lump sum deposits of as much as $20,000 in cash. See, this is the standard boomer lifestyle, though. Like, this was not in 1982. This was barely getting by.
Right.
Yeah. Fuster apparently liked to screen home videos for the kids, one of which was said to be a snuff film that the children described as depicting 2 men butchering a woman in a bathtub and then eating her. Some of the kids
I don't know that snuff films are real. Like, I think, like, are snuff films real?
Snuff films are definitely real. I mean, we've established in other episodes of this show.
I know, but like, it's just like one of these times where I'm sort of like, fuck my life.
I mean, murdering and eating a grown woman is the least gross thing that this guy allegedly had on video.
That's
you know true. What I'm saying? Like,
it's very true. Yes.
Like, it's the least bad one. It alone should send everyone involved to the electric chair, but it's the least bad one. Fuster, let's see. Some of the kids also, as a side note, spoke of being hypnotized by Ileana Fuster, who they said wore a hypnotizer on a chain around her neck. If you're going to get hypnotized by someone, and Ileana is like way up on the list. Top female hypnotizer names. The trial of Frank Fuster had notable parallels to the McMartin prosecutions, although it differed in significant ways as well. The country walk parents who actively and vocally worked to see Fuster brought to justice were subjected to death threats by phone, obscene messages in the mail, and dead chickens left on their doorsteps, similar to the harassment suffered by their counterparts in Manhattan Beach. Also, like McMartin, the primary defense strategy was to bring in a hired gun expert of questionable qualifications to attempt to discredit the children's testimony. The children had been brainwashed by the overzealous therapists, it was claimed, as the treacherous therapists were crucified as being the true guilty parties in what was cast as a witch hunt. The man originally slated to play the starring role for the defense was Ralph Underwager. Bizarre name. A bizarre fucking name. Underwager?
A genuinely unusual name, yes.
A genuinely unusual name. Like, this guy's just bad. This guy's just bad at running his bankroll. Like, he doesn't know when to bet big. Like, what is this? What is this name? This is like the weirdest. It's like, yes, my great grandfather was a shitty gambler in London. And so that's the family name. Underwager. Yes, of course, False Memory Syndrome Foundation, fucker. Yes, that's right. At the time, the prominent mouthpiece of a group calling itself Vocal for Victims of Child Abuse Laws. Victims of Child Abuse Laws. Wow. Who would be the victim of a child abuse law? A child abuser? As the name implies, the group was largely composed of indicted and or convicted pedophiles. Underwager had been present at the birth of the organization, probably a few fucking other births. The defense suffered a bit of a setback when it was revealed at a pretrial deposition that Underwager's credentials as an expert in the field of child development were non-existent. He was quietly dropped by the defense and replaced with Lee Stewart Coleman, who also had close ties to Vocal. Coleman had played a key role in the unsuccessful prosecution of the defendants in one of the McMartin-linked preschools. Coleman did not succeed in his mission in the Country Walk case. Fuster was found guilty on all 14 of the counts brought against him. One reason for that is that the children were protected from the abusive pretrial treatment received by the McMartin kids. In addition, police and prosecutors, with some notable exceptions, seem to have actually made an effort to win the case. Why was this prosecution not subverted as so many others were? That is difficult to say, although the answer may lie in the makeup of the parents seeking justice for their children. Among them were a police sergeant, a police lieutenant, 2 former state prosecutors, a former chief assistant state attorney, and a gun-toting vigilante named Bobby Dean.
I love the phrase gun-toting.
I love the phrase gun-toting vigilante.
Yeah, well, I mean, one sort of implies the other. You know what the actual origin of the phrase is? Gun-toting? Well, it's probably not the origin, but it acquired its meaning in the Reconstruction South, where there was always the accusation this was always the accusation that was lobbed against, like, especially freedmen. Whenever violence was about to break out, there would be like reprisals against gun-toting Negroes. But like one of the things that nobody ever stopped, it was sort of politically enmeshed, but like most of them were usually U.S. Army soldiers. So like the charge of gun-toting was a little anachronistic.
Was a little sketchy on account of their. Yeah, okay, makes sense. Let's see. In the end, Frank Fuster, the man who appeared at his pretrial hearing in what was described as a catatonic trance, was sentenced to be imprisoned until the year 2150. Wonder how he's doing. Not even the Santeria priest who attended the trial with Fuster's mother and uncle had the power to save him. And Arvida, which is to say the Walt Disney Company, paid $6 million to 7 of his victims. That's a little weird. It's a little weird that they would be a defendant.
Unusual. Yet again, unusual.
Even so, justice was not necessarily served. According to the victims, at least 2 other adults were involved in the abuse. The state knew the identity of at least one of them, but he was never charged with any crimes. Had he been, there was no telling where the investigation might have led. His wife had once run her own babysitting service. With the heightened awareness of the issue of child abuse engendered by the high profile Fuster. So there's a whole other babysitting service run by the associate of a 15-time convicted known pedophile.
Well, I mean,
that has an unknown number of potential other victims. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, with the heightened awareness of the issue of child abuse engendered by the high-profile Fuster case, a number of other cases surfaced in the Miami area. In the course of one investigation, police inadvertently stumbled upon a collection of hundreds of photographs of a convicted child pornographer engaged in sexual acts with young boys. The man was promptly arrested, like you do. 2 days after his release on bond, he was found in a Miami hotel room with a bullet hole in his head. His death was naturally ruled a suicide. His timely suicide preempted an investigation that could, it seemed reasonable to conclude, have led to the elementary school that was directly across from his home and studio. Another case that broke in the wake of Country Walk was that of Harold Grant Snowden, whose wife had also run a babysitting service. Dozens of kids had passed through her care over the course of a decade. It took 2 trials, but Snowden was ultimately convicted. In 1983, he had been named the South Miami Police Department's Officer of the Year. Stepping up to handle the appeal of his conviction was F. Lee Bailey, who in the late 1960s had represented a U.S. Air Force captain in South Carolina, accused of molesting multiple child victims. Bailey will be revisited later in this book. Years later, in August 2002, Florida authorities issued a warrant for the arrest of a former minister and radio evangelist named Troy Cecil Snowden. A search of his Cape Coral home had yielded weapons, child pornography, and other unspecified items. I think can you Jamie up what Frank Fuster's doing right now?
This is gonna totally by the way, chat, because everybody
holy shit, I'm mutual. No, he follows me on.
Let's see what's
Frank Fuster up to?
What is the current status of one convicted
pedophile Frank Fuster?
Let's see if it picks this up. Also known as Francesco Fuster Escalona, is a Florida inmate serving a long prison sentence for convictions related to child sexual abuse at a home daycare center in the 1980s. He was convicted in 1985 of multiple counts. Block. But no, that doesn't. Yeah, wow. But how's he? How's he doing?
He's still. How's it? I didn't ask what he did. I asked how he's doing.
As of the most recently available public information, Frank Fuster remains incarcerated in a Florida prison, serving the entire sentence imposed on him. There are no recent credible reports describing changes in his condition, release, or transfer. Regarding his well-being or personal condition inside prison, there is no authoritative public reporting providing current details on his physical health, mental state, or daily circumstances.
Or Club says, I'm starting to think these people are really bad babysitters.
Yeah,
that's so true.
Almost that's maybe even in the business model.
Randall Shirker says Fuster's case was literally prosecuted by Janet Reno.
Well, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
That's right. Well, and he says no wonder it imploded, but it didn't implode. It didn't implode. He did get convicted, and he is still in prison. So yeah, exactly. Janet Reno does one thing right. Well, maybe I don't know.
Vendetta, it's literally. She's probably like, you're going in prison to shut you up.
She wouldn't. He wouldn't let her drink the Gatorade piss drugs.
Florida prison sounds terrible. They're in terms of states to go to prison in. What are the worst states to go to prison in? Let's Jamie that up. What are
you know where I'd love to be in fucking prison? Alaska's probably got great prisons.
I have a specific answer in mind for what if the state that I'm imagining is not close to the top of this list. Then yeah, there it is. Okay, so yeah,
or maybe Maine. Maine
No, it's the one that I had in mind was Louisiana, and it crops up as number 2 here. Yeah, like Louisiana. I mean, it says Texas is often cited first. I think that's probably Jamie like picking up on sheer volume of complaints. But like pound for pound, there's a reason I've never been to jail. Like I've never even been like put in handcuffs or anything like that, despite doing no shortage of things that like had I lived in a less like in a more mistake friendly environment might have gotten me thrown in jail for a night or something like that. I mean, I've never done anything really bad, but like I've never even got caught like driving home drunk from a football game or something like that. Because the prospect of going to prison at all for any reason in the state of Louisiana terrifies me. I will not be taken alive. Like it's not going to happen. Florida is not in the Florida is on the is in the top tier list. So worst states to go to prison in, and there's a theme that begins developing rapidly. So we got Texas number 1, Louisiana number 2, Alabama number 3, Mississippi number 4, Arizona sneaking in from the side somehow, and then Florida rounding out the top tier of places you don't want to fucking go to jail. Now imagine it's hard to imagine wanting to go to jail anywhere, but like, you know.
Federal minimum security prison camp would probably be is definitely the best kind of thing to be in. Is that one they call
Camp Cupcake?
I think that's Pensacola.
It's the one Martha Stewart was in.
I believe that's what it was.
Anyway,
also Randall Shirker says one guy his potential co-conspirators get away to keep up this shit. Okay, yeah, fair enough on that. But that is how that is kind of par for the course on how these things go. Is it not? Like how often do they actually round them up? Right?
Not very often.
They really don't. It seems like it's hard to do that, and they just the standards of evidence need to be lowered slightly. Actually, it needs to be easier, a lot easier. Yeah. All right. Well, thank God Frank's still in prison. Too bad he's alive, but at least he's in prison. They're probably just bringing kids in for him. Like, let's be real. Who fucking knows? All right, chapter 6, finders keepers, and all of us will be losers weepers, I am sure, by the end of this. People want to believe that I'm at the center of everything. They're mistaken. I did things of which I was not the driving force. I was used as an instrument by others, who were themselves used as instruments by others. Marc Dutroux. Yeah, the Belgian beast. Just a few years after the conviction of Frank Fuster, another child exploitation case surfaced briefly in the state of Florida. On February 7th, 1987, not long before Larry King and Craig Spence operations were exposed, the Washington Post ran an interesting story that at the time did not seem to have any particular national significance. The article concerned a case of possible kidnapping and child abuse and read in part as follows. Authorities investigating the alleged abuse of 6 children found with 2 men in Tallahassee, Florida, in a Tallahassee, Florida park, discovered material yesterday in the Washington area that they say points to a 1960s style commune called the Finders, described in a court document as a cult that allegedly conducted brainwashing and used children in rituals. DC police, who searched a Northeast Washington warehouse linked to the group, removed large plastic bags filled with color slides, photographs, and photographic contact sheets. Some photos visible through a bag carried from the warehouse at 1307 4th Street Northeast were wallet-sized pictures of children, similar to school photos. Some were of naked children. DC police sources said some of the items seized yesterday showed pictures of children engaging in what appeared to be cult rituals. Officials of the U.S. Customs Service called in to aid the investigation said the material seized yesterday includes photos showing children involving bloodletting, ceremonies of animals, and one photograph of a child in chains. Customs officials say they were looking into whether a child pornography operation was being conducted. Their links to the D.C. area have led authorities into a far-reaching investigation that includes the finders. A group of about 40 people that court documents allege is led by a man named Marion Petty and their various homes, including the duplex apartments building in Glover Park, the Northeast Washington warehouse, and a 90-acre farm in rural Madison County, Virginia.
Incredibly, no confirmed connections between our boy and the Finders cult, which is like, I don't believe that.
Oh, Fuster?
No. The star of the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Dutroux, you mean?
Jolly West.
Oh, Jolly West. Oh, Jolly West, of course, the star of the show. The star of the show. Yes.
The man at the center.
So he was really into cult deprogramming at this time.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's almost impossible to believe he didn't like at least make a cameo here.
Yeah. Let's see. The children, identified in court documents only by the first names of Honeybee, John, Franklin, BB, Max, and Mary, were described as dirty, unkempt, hungry, disturbed, and agitated. They had been living in the rear of the van for some time, the document said. Yesterday, police spokesman Hunt said one of the children, a 6-year-old girl, showed signs of sexual abuse. One of them. 5 of the children were uncommunicative, according to police, and none seemed to recognize objects such as typewriters and staplers. However, the oldest was able to give investigators some information. She said that the 2 men were their teachers, according to Hunt. Before their arrests in the park, the 2 adult caretakers had told police they were teachers from Washington, transporting these children to Mexico and a school for brilliant children. According to Hunt, when police asked the men where the children's mothers were, they said they were being weaned from their mothers. What a fucking weird thing to say.
Yeah.
These kids are, what, one was 6 that was not the oldest? Jesus. Yeah, arrested immediately. Good job, whatever beat officers responded to this. Yeah. It was nearly 7 years before the press revisited the Finders case, with the follow-up provided by U.S. News and World Report. Most likely, the strange saga of the Finders would have disappeared forever, if not for the rumors surrounding the case that just would not seem to go away. These rumors were addressed in the U.S. News report as follows. One of the unresolved questions involves the allegation that the Finders are somehow linked to the Central Intelligence Agency. Customs Service documents reveal that in 1987, when customs agents sought to examine the evidence gathered by Washington, D.C. police, they were told that the Finders investigation had become an internal matter. What an odd thing to say. I think we can all agree. The police report on the case had been classified secret. Even now, Tallahassee police complain about the handling of the Finders investigation by D.C. police. They dropped this case, one Tallahassee investigator says, like a hot rock. D.C. police will not comment on the matter. As for the CIA, ranking officials describe allegations about links between the intelligence agency and the Finders as hogwash. Perhaps the result of a simple mix-up with D.C. police. Just a little whoopsie. The only connection, according to the CIA, a firm that provided computer training to CIA officers, also employed several members of the Finders. It should probably be noted here that the firm that supplied the training to CIA officers didn't just employ several members of the Finders, but appears to have in fact been a wholly owned subsidiary of the Finders organization. It should also be noted that the CIA does not, as a general rule of thumb, assign training of its officers to outside contractors, unless that is the private firm utilized in such a capacity as a CIA front. In the last paragraph of the U.S. News report, more intriguing connections to Langley are revealed. The CIA's interest in the Finders may stem from the fact that group leader Marion Petty's late wife once worked for the agency and that his son worked for a CIA proprietary firm, Air America. Aside from acknowledging these, By then widely known in Washington, CIA connections, the U.S. news reporters did their very best to bury the Finders story once and for all.
We don't want to talk about this.
We don't want to talk about this. Do you really want to talk about this? Can we talk about college rankings? Yeah. The case is almost 7 years old now. Oh, well, at the time of writing. But matters surrounding a mysterious group known as the Finders keep growing curiouser and curiouser. In early February 1987, an anonymous tipster in Tallahassee, Florida, made a phone call to police. Two well-dressed men seemed to be supervising 6 disheveled and hungry children in a local park. The caller said, "The cops went after the case like bloodhounds, at least at first. The 2 men were identified as members of the Finders. They were charged with child abuse in Florida. In Washington, D.C., police and U.S. Customs Service agents raided a duplex apartment building and a warehouse connected to the group. Among the evidence seized, detailed instructions on obtaining children for unknown purposes and several photographs of nude children." What the fuck do those what is like the employee handbook for the Finder? Like, what does instructions for obtaining children? Like,
dude, I mean, like sometimes these cult organizations will be like remarkably literal with like, you're like, why did you write that down?
Is you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. According to a customs memorandum obtained by U.S. News, one photo appeared to accent the child's genitals. What does that mean? The more the police learned about the Finders, the more bizarre they seemed. They were suggestions of child abuse, Satanism, dealing in pornography, and ritualistic animal slaughter. Does accent the child's genitals? Does that mean you just like circle them? Like, what the fuck does that? I mean, focus on them. In that case, it's just child pornography. So why mention that that's what it does? It's weird. None of the allegations was ever proved, however. The child abuse charges against the 2 men in Tallahassee were dropped. All 6 of the children were eventually returned to their mothers, though in the case of 2, conditions were attached by a court. In Washington, D.C., police began backing away from the Finders investigation. The group's practices, the police said, were eccentric, not illegal. Child pornography, I don't know about that. The article closed by complaining, "Some of the rumors can last an awfully long time." Indeed, they can, though they have had to circulate outside of the media, which has never again mentioned the case. That does not mean, however, that there is no additional information available on the subject. As the U.S. News reporter noted in their report, there is a certain Customs Service memorandum that was written at the time of the original 1987 investigation. As that document was in the hands of news reporters at the time the story was written, as they readily acknowledged, it should logically follow that any pertinent information contained therein would have been faithfully reported. As we know, the news concluded none of the allegations were ever proved. Still, it might be instructive to review the document to see what kind of eccentric, not illegal practices it was that the group was involved in. This is going to be a fiery but mostly peaceful type of legal. The memo in question is actually a series of memos that were written by U.S. Customs Service Special Agent Ramon J. Martinez. In the officer's own words, this is what he observed while participating in the investigation. Hey, what's U.S. Customs U.S. Customs Service Special Agent Ramon J. Martinez doing right now? Can you jamie that up for us?
Ramon J. Martinez?
Yeah.
On Thursday, Ramon Martinez.
Ramon Martinez. On Thursday, February 5th, 1987, this office was contacted via telephone by Sergeant Joanna Van Meter of the Tallahassee Police Department, Juvenile Division. Sergeant Van Meter requested assistance in identifying 2 adult males and 6 minor children, ages 7 to 2 years. Okay, so that's how old they were.
Dude, Tallahassee is such a you're not an extensive Southern traveler like myself.
True.
I have been all over the South.
You've been everywhere, man.
I've been everywhere. And at this point, you can almost extend that out to the West Coast, like south of St. Louis, extended out to the West Coast. I've been fucking everywhere, but with a special emphasis, I have been everywhere in the census designated South. And there's a sense in which I am myself the manifestation of the South. I've been to Tallahassee twice, and both times I thought, fuck,
this is a cursed place.
Yeah. It's this like really like totally nondescript, like, because it's like it's in the panhandle, really. Okay. And like when you think about Florida, there are like
not to.
Well, most states, it's not unusual for the capital city of a state to not be the one that you immediately think of. Like Alabama, you immediately think Birmingham, but the capital's Montgomery. New York, famously, okay, you think of it, it's like, no, New York City's not the capital of New York. Chicago is Chicago the capital? No, it's not. Chicago is not the
capital of Illinois is Springfield.
Yeah. Chicago is Missouri. It's like fucking Independence or some shit like that. I have no clue.
That would be Jefferson City.
Yeah, Jefferson City. Like it's frequently like not the place you think it is. It is very unusual though for the capital to fall as far down the list as Tallahassee goes. Like when you think of Florida, you think, okay, there's fucking Miami, of course, and then after that, probably Tampa, and then Orlando, and then Jacksonville, and then Pensacola, and I'd mention Tampa, like Naples. There are like so many places that could be the capital of Florida that aren't, and this is like a little shit heap. There's a little Jim Crow shit heap called fucking Tallahassee that nobody ever goes to for any reason.
Well, it's kind of like how, I mean, even Louisiana, like, why Baton Rouge though?
Yeah, now I can explain that. Louisiana's capital, and Tallahassee actually might be this kind of the same story, but the reasons during the Civil War, first of all, New Orleans fell rapidly. Like we didn't even put up a fight. We were just like, yeah, we pretended not to be able to speak English, and the
français.
Yeah, exactly. So the capital of Louisiana moved a number of times during the war. It's like we had like 5 different capitals during the war, but Baton Rouge really got cemented as the capital of Louisiana in Reconstruction. Again, whenever there was a nearly 10-year period where there were rival state governments in Louisiana. So New Orleans was the official capital of Louisiana after the war was over, but it was like a rump Republican regime that like really didn't hold sway very far outside the city limits. And then like in the back country, like Baton Rouge was the capital of the sort of white league, like ex-Confederate opposition. And that's the one that stuck,
State capitals generally though are complete bullshit.
Well, they usually try to build them in places where the business of doing state government is the number one business there.
It's just like, come the fuck on, guys. Like the capital should be the most important metro area in the state.
Yeah, I mean there were explicit. The reasons for it not being the case are almost always explicitly to bleed down the influence of those places.
I know. But like, I don't know. There are a bunch that I don't. I mean, I'm set on the Midwest, right? But like, you get out to like, like the capital of Oregon is Salem. What the fuck? Who's ever that? That's made up. Salem, Oregon.
No, I've been there. I've been there. It's beautiful.
It's not really. Well, Oregon, in Oregon, of course, it's fucking beautiful.
The idea of Oregon having a state government is itself kind of jokey. Like it's like, well,
that's right.
Does anybody do anything wrong in Oregon ever? Is the first question.
Well, I mean, Portland. Yeah. Yes,
that's true. I remember like recently though, there was like a Portland City Council meeting that kind of went viral, and it was just like middle-aged women sitting around doing middle-aged women shit, and I'm like, that's exactly how I imagine that.
Yeah, exactly. The man. Okay. All right. Well, enough about
Back to pedo cults.
enough about
I'm
enough
doing
about
everything I'm
civics.
doing everything
We're
I
doing
can,
civics.
chat. I'm doing everything I can, chat. Like I'm forced into this position where I'm like, do I let Cap go and speed this along so we can bring this travesty to a conclusion, or do I intervene on behalf of our loyal listeners?
Yeah, you're just kind of like you just like get loaded up with it though.
But then I find
Yeah.
Randall Shirker here saying, y'all were pussies, a stain on Southern honor. That is not explicitly what happened. I made it sound worse than it was, but the truth is that I've talked about this before. The Mississippi River is very difficult to block. It's very difficult to constrain. Okay. And
it's fucking huge.
We had assumed that we had put this huge chain across the deep channel of the Mississippi, and we assumed nobody could get past it. And Farragut, or what's his name, he was a little more resourceful than the average person was, and he just bypassed it, and we didn't really have anything to do, Oh, New Orleans is cursed, absolutely. Like there is like that. That's a separate issue. That's a totally separate issue, and it doesn't have anything to do with the French. And the French are not what makes this a cursed place. It's the things the French failed to do that make it a cursed place.
Let's not list those things. Okay.
Look, hey, we're getting like. Do you ever figure out about child pedo?
You ever figure out what happened to Ramon Martinez?
He's just where is he? It's trying to compare him to Jolly West now, which is like sort of search warrants were executed on Finders Associated Properties. Police reports describe strange writings, computer files, photographs.
Okay, but I want to know if he's still with Customs.
Yeah, but what's he up to?
All right, Son of Haster with $5 super chat says, I'm on vacation from work, which for some reason means I've been listening to this podcast all day. I'm worried for my dreams tonight. Happy New Year. I am so sorry. If you've listened to more than 2 episodes of LMD in a single day, you are one of our strongest soldiers. God help you. God help you.
Especially if it's a recent one. If it's a recent one, you were among the raped. But there is GPT was unable to find the whereabouts of Ramon Martinez.
Ramon Martinez. Okay. All right.
Done nothing wrong.
All right. By the way, the oldest of the kids was 7. So the idea that they were being weaned from their mothers is
look at this. He's in charge of ICE in Florida, and I'm just kidding.
Oh man, that'd be sick. All right. All right. The adult males were tentatively identified by the Tallahassee Police Department as Michael Houlihan and Douglas Ammerman.
I love the name Houlihan.
Houlihan. God damn it. Both of Washington, D.C., who were arrested for the previous day on charges of child abuse. The police had received an anonymous telephone call relative to well-dressed white men. That's nonsense. I don't know what's going on there. Related to 2 well-dressed white men wearing suits and ties in Myers Park, apparently watching 6 dirty and unkempt children in the playground area. Houlihan and Ammerman were near a 1980 blue Dodge van bearing a Virginia license number. I'm not going to read the whole license number. Who cares? The inside of which was later described as foul smelling, filled with maps, books, letters, with a mattress situated to the rear of the van, which appeared as if it were used as a bed. And that's what a mattress would be. And the overall appearance of the van gave the impression that all 8 persons were living in it. Man, it's like my life before I met my wife, minus all the kids, just the piles of books and a mattress on the floor. The children were covered with insect bites, were very dirty. Most of the children were not wearing underwear, and all of the children had not been bathed in many days. The men were arrested and charged with multiple counts of child abuse and lodged in the Leon County Jail. Once in custody, The men were somewhat evasive in their answers to the police regarding the children, and stated only that they were both the children's teachers and that all were en route to Mexico to establish a school for brilliant children.
What?
Wow.
Dude, the American past, I always do this thing where I imagine boomers today, but when they were younger,
Yeah.
it's like you can get away with anything,
Why
for better or
would-
worse.
What, like, I'm just saying,
we're going to Mexico to start this fucking school for brilliant kids. What?
If that's number one, why are you in Tallahassee? What route have you taken that makes you be in Tallahassee? Would have worked way better in like any state that shares a border with Mexico.
You know who else was I think Uncle fucking Ted got caught in Tallahassee, didn't he? No, Ted Bundy.
No, he did not.
Ted Bundy got caught in Tallahassee, I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
Let's see.
I thought Ted Bundy was Chicago.
He was in the Pacific Northwest, but he had when he started to feel the heat, he lit out and he made it. I know it was in Florida somewhere because it was a huge part of his investigation a huge part of his case that he was not anticipating being caught in the fucking South where we just put.
He was arrested in Pensacola.
Oh, in Pensacola, yeah. I was a bit I know, but he was at Florida State, which I think is the last crime spree that he did. I think was at Florida State, which I think is in Tallahassee. I'm pretty sure Tallahassee is where Florida State is, and it's the only other thing in because it's the public land grant university, and it's in Tallahassee for the same reason.
Also, I was thinking I always get John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy mixed up.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous because one is a disgusting looking chud, and one was notoriously handsome. So
the thing about Bundy is that and I've done the deep dive on Bundy. I don't really see it. He comes off to me as totally fucking nuts. But then I also remember that he was a Republican Party operative. And I'm like, par for the course.
You think that he just looks crazy and not handsome?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it might just be because the pictures that are available of him.
Come on, that smile, that damn smile.
Yeah.
Come on, look at him. Look at this guy. Who could hate this face? He does look a little crazed. I'll give you that. But you know what? Bitches love a man who looks a little crazed.
At this point, he's been roughed up. I mean, look at it, dude. Look at this look at this dude from the Allman Brothers.
This guy. Both of these dudes rocking the Porter Wagner shirts. That's wild.
Yes.
You could back then you could be a cop and dress like this. That is badass.
Back then you couldn't be a cop and not dress like that.
This kid is the son of one of these cops, guaranteed. He's having the fucking time of his life. Look at him.
Yeah.
Look at this kid up here. Anyway, Bundy's total physiognomy and this smile and everything. This makes women think my rapist.
But
right? That's why he's notoriously handsome.
I can see this whenever you're showing pictures of him when he's around other people from miscreant, dysgenic parts of the country. But you put him in the room with some Chad ass Southern police officers, and all of a sudden the spell breaks.
Dude, he looks like fucking Robert Downey Jr. in this image.
He looks exactly like Robert Downey Jr. How has Robert Downey Jr. not played Ted Bundy?
Well, he missed his chance. He'd have to play old Ted Bundy. which implies a bunch of things. Yeah.
Son of Pastor just keeps getting worse. I needed a break from this series, so I listened to the old Catherine D. female Gooners stream. What a ride!
That was that was a sidebar episode. Yeah, that's a great one. Because of that episode, I read the entire Gore series.
This is Catherine D. talking about her literal favorite subject.
We were just talking about femme gooning. That's right. Anyway, let's see. You know what? Honestly, like Zac Efron's a good actor. Like he didn't do bad as yeah.
He kind of looks like Bundy too. I can see it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure where I was. All right.
We were talking about
brilliant.
cults.
We're starting a school for brilliant children. Stupid fucking
in Mexico.
Stupid fucking idea. Stupid plan. Stupid, terrible cover story. 4 of Clubs. Zac Efron is a good actor. Did you watch Iron Claw? That movie was great. Let's see. All right. Multiple counts of. U.S. Customs was contacted because police officers involved suspected the adults of being involved in child pornography and knew that the Customs Service to have a network of child pornography investigators, and of the existence of the Child Pornography Protection Unit. SS/A Kreitlau stated, I don't know what that is. I guess that would be service special agent. Stated the 2 adults were well-dressed white males. They had custody of 6 white children, both boys and girls, aged 3 to 6. The children were previously noted as 7 to 2. The children were observed to be poorly dressed, bruised, dirty, and behaving like wild animals in a public park in Tallahassee. Kreitlau was further advised the children were unaware of the function and purpose of telephones, televisions, and toilets. Really going screen-free early. And that the children had stated they were not allowed to live indoors and were only given food as a reward. Yikes. Okay. Does not seem like my experience in the GATE program, but all right. Upon contacting Detective Bradley, I learned that he had initiated an investigation on the 2 addressees provided by the Tallahassee Police Department.
No, go ahead and finish.
During December of 1986, an informant had given him information regarding a cult known as the Finders operating various businesses out of a warehouse located at 1307 4th Street Northeast and were supposed to be housing children at 3918 and 3920 West Street Northwest. Man, fuck Tallahassee directions. Like,
hold on, though.
Fucking name your streets right.
Did you just broach the subject of your experience in GATE?
Yeah, I got gated.
So you want to unpack that?
What do you mean? I was part of the gifted program in a state that was part of the overall GATE, the GATE experience.
You know Sam Austin?
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten him started on the GATE thing?
No.
Dude, I mean, it's worth a deep dive. I too was involved in a version of GATE, and I suspect this is why. Like, oh man, are there any like artifacts of your life that you consider generally unusual?
I have actually fairly few memories of my childhood.
That's one of them right there.
Yeah, it is one of them. I have fairly few distinct memories of my childhood.
So do I. I have like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, the 90s I have some distinct granular memories of the 90s, but I do remember a couple of these GATE instances where there are some unusual things that like tie the very fact that both of us were involved and we are now hosting this podcast is itself sus. You know,
that's right. Four of Clubs in chat says, "Oh no, Cap and Sandbatch can potentially be activated." Bold of you to assume.
Yeah, that what makes you think this isn't our activation? You know?
Yeah. Actually, so straight up, I'll tell you something. I had some like bad behavioral stuff going on when I was like 5 to 10, and then I chilled, and then my personality completely changed when I tried LSD for the first time at 15.
Oh man,
so.
yeah. My personality didn't really change as a result of that, but
Do you know?
yeah, I remember myself before and after pretty good.
Fair enough. Well, I do too. So, I Randall says, Kath, you are not helping your case. Look, it is what it is, man. I gotta deal with where my brain bits be. I'm living a great life right now, so I'm happy to say that it's all worked out for me. But yeah, the gate stuff is true. So, all right. Where are we? Anyway, both of us, so neither Nancy or I can figure out where I left the other half of my head. That's right. Upon contacting Detective Bradley, something finders housing children at those addresses. Sandbatch, are you jamieing up those addresses I read?
No, I'm not.
In Tallahassee, maybe the buildings.
Still looking up.
If the buildings have been,
I'm trying.
If the buildings have been bulldozed, if those buildings have been bulldozed,
dude, everything is. But I mean, at this point, Tallahassee's been hit by like 3 Category 5 hurricanes since then.
Fair enough. A perfect opportunity,
right? I mean, it is.
Yes. What happened to building 7?
But Tallahassee is one of these places where, like, even without knowing much about the Finders cult, it is one of these places that I associate with occult behavior.
Sure.
There are a lot, like, that's a thing with rural southern cities, because like you're near a large group of people that aren't really paying a lot of attention. And I mean, it's like Shreveport is one of them. Jonesboro, Arkansas is another one of these places.
Galesburg.
Where is that?
Galesburg?
Galesburg. Is that in Arkansas?
I think so.
Yeah, it sounds, because there's a Yale County in Arkansas. See, I know everything about the South. But where else? There's one in South Carolina. There's an area in South Carolina. It's called like the Black Triangle, that you just don't go there. And it's like all occultic and shit.
Because everyone's black.
Yeah. Louisiana, of course, is one giant. It's like this is good. Krivolapova was like posting the other day. She was
I'm the one who fucking told. I legitimately think that the Loa are in control.
I'm just gonna say, you think you're the first person who's ever told me about the occult?
I know that I'm the first person who told you who
I've never considered the Loas before, but I am deeply intimate with the unfortunate aspects of my home city. In fact, that's actually been sort of problematic for me. I've had accusations of voodoo hurled at me by very important people in my life recently. I have had people attempt to do voodoo on me. That's ongoing currently. There are all kinds of things that, like, voodoo enters my life in like ways that I really, at this point, when I was younger, I was entertained by it. At this point, I'm like, no, please go away.
Please go away. All right. Uncle Ted says, here's the biggest clue no one ever talks about. 32-bit computer was in the van. They trained workers on 32-bit computers. That is the Promise software. They were running child trafficking with Promise. So, yeah. Self-funding is CIA 100%. Yeah. I mean, how do you get into the whole like run a CIA cutout? How do you get into that?
You gotta go to Georgetown. Pretty much, I think. Well, it's not George. There are ways to get hooked in. Like, and I mean, I can say this as somebody who's been hooked in before. Like, there are 2 separate times whenever I wasn't aware of it at the time, but in hindsight, I was like, oh, that was an opportunity to join the Federal Intelligence Services, and I dropped the ball. So I'm here.
Yeah, but I feel like
here in my freezing house,
I feel like if you join in one of those methods, you're just an asset who gets burned. That's all.
It's a pipeline, like you get sorted.
Yeah. All right. The information was specific in describing blood rituals and sexual orgies involving children, not the regular kind of orgies.
Yeah.
And as an as yet unsolved murder in which the finders may be involved. With the information provided by the informant, Detective Bradley was able to match some of the children in Tallahassee with names of children known or alleged to be in custody of the finders. Furthermore, Bradley was able to match the tentative ID of the adults with known members of the finders. I stood by while Bradley consulted with AUSA Harry Benner and obtained search warrants for the two premises. I advised acting RAC SSA Tim Halloran of my intention to accompany MPD on the execution of the warrants, received his permission, and was joined by SSA Harold. SSA Harold accompanied the team, which went to 1307 4th Street, and I went to 3918/20 West Street. During the execution of the warrant at 3918, I was able to observe and access the entire building. There were several subjects on the premises. Only one was deemed to be connected with the finders. He was located in a room equipped with several computers, printers, and numerous documents. Cursory examination of the documents revealed detailed instructions for obtaining children for unspecified purposes. The instructions included the impregnation of female members of the community known as the finders, purchasing the children, trading, and kidnapping. There were telex messages using MCI account numbers between computer terminals believed to be located in the same room and others located across the country and in foreign locations. One such telex specifically ordered the purchase of 2 children in Hong Kong to be arranged through a contact in the Chinese embassy there. Another telex expressed interest in bank secrecy situations. Other documents identified interest in high-tech transfers to the United Kingdom, numerous properties under the control of the finders, a keen interest in terrorism, explosives, and the evasion of law enforcement. Also found in the computer room was a detailed summary of the events surrounding the arrest and taking into custody of 2 adults and 6 children in Tallahassee the previous night. There were also a set of instructions which appeared to be broadcast via a computer network, which advised the participants to move the children and keep them moving through different jurisdictions, and instructions on how to avoid police attention.
Apparently not very difficult, you know.
Yeah, but the issue with moving them is that, you know, it's suspicious to move them.
It is.
Right?
Everything about this is suspicious.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We're talking about like relative levels of suspicion, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Detailed summary of events. On Friday, the 6th of February, 1987, I met Detective Bradley at the warehouse on 4th Street Northeast. I duly advised my acting group's supervisor, SSA Don Bloodworth. Nice name. I was again granted unlimited access to the premises.
The blood syrup name from the meme, you know.
Bloodworth.
Like, yeah.
Bloodworth.
What? Anglos be wild.
Yeah. Wagers for the underwager. Blood for the Bloodworth. I was again granted unlimited access to the premises. I was able to observe numerous documents which described explicit sexual conduct between the members of the community known as the finders. I also saw a large collection of photographs of unidentified persons. Some of the photographs were nudes, believed to be of members of the finders. There were numerous photos of children, some nude, at least one of which was a photo of a child on display and appearing to accent the child's genitals. I was only able to examine a very small amount of the photos at the time. Okay, in the context of the report, the on display and accent, like, it does make sense of phrasing it that way, right? Like, not just not like a kid in the bath, like a photo that is not like it's not an explicitly sexual act, but it is meant to focus on the genitals. Okay. All right. In the context of a police report, it makes sense. I was only able to examine a very small amount of the photos at this time. However, one of the officers presented me with a photo album for my review. The album contained a series of photos of adults and children dressed in white sheets participating in a blood ritual. The ritual centered around the execution of at least 2 goats. The photos portrayed the execution, disembowelment, skinning, and dismemberment of the goats at the hands of the children. This included the removal of the testes of a male goat, the discovery of a female goat's womb and the baby goats inside the womb, and the presentation of a goat's head to one of the children. Well, that would be an execution of more than 2 goats if the lady goat was pregnant. The nanny goat, right? She had some kids. More goats than 1. If abortion's murder, this is an execution of more than 2 goats. I'm just saying.
I think I said to point out that unlike Tusko's wife, you know,
both of them went together. It's a little kinder that way. Judy just suffered for decades after witnessing Tusko.
We're not going to talk about Judy.
Poor Judy. Further inspection of the premises. One of the things I'm horrified of is if I'm misremembering the name of Tusko's wife.
No, it's Judy and I remember it because it's the same name as the demonic entity in Twin Peaks.
Amazing. Further inspection. They should have named the demonic entity in Twin Peaks Tusko. Back for revenge. Further inspection of the premises disclosed numerous files relating to activities of the organization in different parts of the world. Locations I observed are as follows: London, Germany, the Bahamas, Japan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Africa, Costa Rica, and Europe. There was also a file titled as Palestinian. Dun, dun, dun. Other files were identified by member name or project name. The project appeared to be operated for commercial purposes under front names for the finders. There was one file entitled Pentagon Break-In. Okay. And it would be great.
There's a whole other file entitled Ask Jeff.
Yeah. There's one called New File and new file ellipses 1 and new file ellipses 1 ellipses 1 and new file
like every
directory
I vibe code.
New file final. New file final in all caps.
Meanwhile, Mike of Pole is currently like suspended between the jaws of several vibe coding agents that have acquired bodies. They've CNC printed their own bodies from his machine, and he's hanging in their suspended web.
God. Wow. It's just titled it Pentagon Break-In. Anyway, and others referring to members operating in foreign countries. Not observed by me, but related by an MPD officer were intelligence files on private families not related to the finders. The process undertaken appears to have been a systematic response to local newspaper advertisements for babysitters, tutors, etc. A member of the finders would respond and gather as much information as possible about the habits, identity, occupation, etc. of the family. The use to which this information was to be put is still unknown. There was also a large amount of data collected on various childcare organizations. The warehouse contained a large library, 2 kitchens, a sauna, hot tub, and a video room. The video room seemed to be set up as an indoctrination center. It also appeared that the organization had the capability to produce its own videos. There were what appeared to be training areas for children and what appeared to be an altar set up in a residential area of the warehouse. Many jars of urine and feces were located in this area.
You said it with such glee.
Why? Well, when I read
how else
many,
are you going to say it?
When I read many, I didn't know that I was going to subsequently say jars of urine and feces.
You should have known by now. We've been reading this book for a month.
Many. Anything there's a lot of has got to be bad.
Yes. There's not a lot of justice going around, is what I'm saying.
There's not a whole heap of justice. Contrary to the claims of U.S. News, running an international terrorist organization specializing in the trafficking of children is definitely more than just eccentric. Unless that is, the organization doing the trafficking is run by the CIA. Group leader Marion Petty shed additional light on his non-connections to the agency in an interview with Steam Shovel Press in 1998. Recounting the history of his group, Petty reminisced, going back to World War II, I kept open house mainly to intelligence people in Washington, OSS people passing through, things like that. Petty was not, mind you, an intelligence asset himself. Well, of course he fucking is. If he's doing that, you are.
Let's
like,
figure out what's
QED.
going on with Steam Shovel Press. It was
Yeah.
an underground magazine, a small publishing project, active primarily from the late 80s through the early 2000s. It occupied a specific niche, the overlap between alternative culture, conspiracy research, true crime, fringe politics, and suppressed or marginal histories.
Sick. Yeah. Let's see here.
Run by a character by the name of Ken Thomas, who every one of the Steam Shovel Press books looks like it was like janked from KDP and an Alex Gray print. Born June 12th, St. Louis, died 2023. Just missed him.
Wow, just missed him. There are a lot of really cool. A lot of the Steam Shovel Press books are still available in secondhand. Most of them are single issues type things. Here's
like,
a really good one.
I'm looking at these covers, and like, as someone who is like currently, like, again, I am publishing books, I promise, but I always have to go through. I told the guy at the coffee shop yesterday what I was doing, and he was like, "You're doing all that yourself?" And he was like, and I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You're fucking crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." But I'm looking at the covers that to these books right now, and they look like somebody like who has not put a lot of thought into book design, not because the covers themselves are not creative, but because like there is very little thought going here into whether or not POD style printers can like actually render these things.
Fun. You don't like Popular Alienation, a Steam Shovel Press reader featuring
that's the one I'm looking at,
featuring a picture of the UFO from Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
and either Kevin Costner or Lee Harvey Oswald. I'm not sure.
That's definitely Lee Harvey Oswald, Princess Diana, and John F. Kennedy. So, this book is available right now on eBay. You can find it for $14.99 or best offer at the time of recording. Yeah, Steam Shovel Press, look them up. They're probably great. They did seek out this fucking creep show, so good for them. Good for them. Oh, wait a minute. Is this Marion? Marion. Oh, man, some of the original zines are really cool. Oh, wait, hold on.
Zines are cool. Like, there's like no way around. Zines are fucking cool.
Zines are fucking cool. Zines are fucking cool. Yeah, they have a bunch of issues about the Finders, actually. So good for them. There's also wow. While I'm looking, actually, you know what? Looking through eBay for a bunch of old zines, there's some real freaking Kino available. I just want to,
dude. The way there's the
look at this one.
The printing
look at this
method.
One. Adolf Hitler's fan mag of the Fantastic. A letter from the master, H.P. Lovecraft. This is from 1952. 1952. They were doing.
You know how these things are printed?
They were doing the alt-right. Yeah, on Xerox. They were doing the fucking alt-right. They were doing the fucking alt-right of 2022.
Dude, I've been pointing out for years that like nothing is new under the sun. Like the underground right has been more or less the same since the 1950s.
Yep. All right. Enough of this aside. Recounting the history of his group, Petty reminisced, going back to World War II, I kept open house mainly to intelligence agencies. In fact, he has spent his entire life serving as a counter spy. As a private citizen, he has taken on the job of monitoring the agency. What the fuck does that mean? As for his wife, Petty claims that he sent her in as a spy to spy on the CIA for me. She was very happy about it, happy to tell me everything she found out. She was in a key place, with the records, and she could find out things for me. Presumably the same applies to Petty's son. What the fuck? No fucking way.
Yeah.
Petty sums up his relationship with the CIA by acknowledging that there are some connections, but not to me personally. Interestingly enough, though, the group that claimed no direct connection to the intelligence community quite obviously had a very powerful people within the community protecting it, as the final Customs Service memo reveals. On Thursday, February 5th, 1987, Senior Special Agent Harold and I, Senior Special Agent, that's what I mean. That's what it meant. That's what SSA meant. And I assisted the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police with 2 search warrants involving the possible sexual exploitation of children. During the course of the search warrants, numerous documents were discovered which appeared to be concerned with international trafficking in children, high-tech transfer to the United Kingdom, and international transfer of currency. On March 31st, 1987, I contacted Detective Jim Bradley of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. I was to meet with Detective Bradley to review the documents seized pursuant to 2 search warrants executed in January 1987. The meeting was to take place on April 2nd or 3rd, 1987. On April 2nd, 1987, I arrived at MPD at approximately 9 a.m. Detective Bradley was not available. I spoke to a third party who was willing to discuss the case with me on strictly off-the-record basis. I was advised that all the passport data had been turned over to the State Department for their investigation. The State Department in turn advised the MPD that all travel and use of the passports by the holders of the passports was within the law and no action would be taken. This included travel to Moscow, North Korea, and North Vietnam from the late 1950s to mid-1970s. Obviously spooks, right? There's no way. No one else gets to do that. The individual further advised me of that man was Henry Kissinger. The individual further advised me of circumstances which indicated that the investigation into the activity of the finders had become a CIA internal matter. The MPD report has been classified secret and was not available for review. I was advised that the FBI had withdrawn from the investigation several weeks prior, and that the FBI Foreign Counterintelligence Division had directed MPD not to advise the FBI Washington field office of anything that had transpired. I love this is the Yankee Cowboy War again. FBI and the State Department not talking. That's right. The initial arrest of the finders in Tallahassee went almost completely unnoticed by the media. So too did another arrest in that same state in August 2000, just before Florida gained newfound fame as the land of the hanging chads. The arrested man was Wayne Camoli. That's a big cannoli. And the charge was operating an online child porn site. The LA Times reported that the West Palm Beach home in which Camoli was arrested, and not unlike the finder's van, was filled with so much rotting garbage, trash, and cat feces that the agents had to borrow oxygen masks and hazardous materials suits from the county fire department to carry out the search. Fucking gross. Sandbatch, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was talking and I had my microphone muted.
Never muted.
It's like I was talking about how the Yankee Cowboy War is, to me, it's like it's a narrative that, like, the only way it's available is in that little trade paperback. Like, to me, this is like one of these books that actually does. I don't know, because I'm sure if I read the actual book, which really we probably should have, but if I read the actual book at this point, I would probably be disappointed by its like citation style and this sort of thing. It really does need to be actually investigated, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Why the fuck don't these people like clean their fucking house? I don't get it. Like they're just like, they just rot. They're just surrounded by rot. Like some, I don't know. Investigating Belgium's most notorious pedophile murder cases. Yeah, sorry. Hazardous materials to carry out the search. Seized in the raid were numerous videotapes and a computer. What makes Camoli's arrest significant here is that, as the Times noted, it was initiated by police investigating Belgium's most notorious pedophilic murder case. It seemed that Camoli had close connections to Felix DeConnick, a suspect in the kidnapping and molestation of a 14-year-old girl. And DeConnick, in turn, had links to Marc Dutroux. And so it is that we end up right back where we began, with the case of the Belgian beast. The brief Times report closed with these words: U.S. officials couldn't elaborate on the connection between DeConnick and Dutroux, but said they were part of the same child pornography, molestation, and murder investigation. It is unlikely that the press will ever revisit the case of Wayne Kamoli. Tellingly, the LA Times article quickly disappeared from the newspaper's online archives. As with so many other cases, the final words of the U.S. Customs Service memorandum on the Finders investigation will likely provide the epitaph for this case as well. No further information will be available. No further action will be taken. The Guardian reported in January 2001 that Interpol, the International Police Agency, has agreed to set up an electronic library of child sex victims at its headquarters in Lyon, France. The first images that were to be processed into that database were 750,000 photos seized by British authorities in the Wonderland raids.
Europe is not the place I would choose to set
Horrifying.
up this database. I should point out.
Yeah, no kidding. In April 2003, Britain's The Register reported that the U.S. Justice Department was setting up an even larger database. Ours is going to be big. It's going to be the biggest one. It's going to have all the photos.
We're going to be the best on child porn.
We can't allow a gap. A huge database system designed to find sexually abused children is under development in the U.S. U.S. Justice Department Child Victim Identification Program will include a catalog of thousands of illicit pictures seized from suspects and collected from the web. Can you jammy up how that project's going? This could make the Justice Department's Child Victim Identification Program. This could make the Justice Department the owner of the world's largest collection of child pornography, the AP reports. According to that AP report, child pornography investigators in several countries had already contributed images to the database, as had the FBI, Secret Service, Postal Inspection Service, and exploited children groups. The goal is for the system to eventually include most of the illicit photographs in circulation on the internet. Advanced image recognition software will be utilized in an attempt to match and identify the children in the photographic images, which will, as the Register noted, make it easier to identify and locate sexually abused children. That is certainly an encouraging development if, that is, it represents a sincere effort by law enforcement personnel to gather evidence against the child exploitation rings and aid in the physically and emotionally ravaged victims. However, there could also be a very sinister goal being pursued. Researcher Arlene Tyner, who has spent a considerable amount of time interviewing and corresponding with victims of mind control operations, noted in a Probe magazine article that some of the victims were turned over to military and CIA doctors by pedophile fathers or other sexually abusive relatives. CIA officials also blackmailed family members known to produce kiddie porn in order to gain control of their already abused and psychologically fragmented children. For what purpose? It is certainly within the realm of possibility that the high-profile child pornography raids in recent years, which invariably resulted in relatively fewer arrests and even fewer prosecutions and convictions, are not intended to punish the victimizers, but to identify and compromise them. And is it not inconceivable that the databases being compiled would be utilized as something of a recruitment list to identify those persons who have been preconditioned, so to speak, for future mind control operations? One thing that can be stated with certainty about the thousands of victims today of today's child pornography and child prostitution rings: someday, many of them will come forward to tell harrowing stories of their early childhood abuse. They will speak of acts of depravity committed against children that are so heinous as to be almost beyond human comprehension. And yet, as difficult as their stories will be to believe, they will be documented by the images stored in Interpol's computers and in the U.S. Justice Department's computers. But how many of these victims will be believed? Yeah.
I like how you get really serious sometimes. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I
it's like you get like the little league dad voice.
Yeah, it's a good hit. God. CK, glowies are like dragons, but instead of gold in their hoard, it's CP. So true.
I couldn't find this database that we were after. First of all, I think Sam Altman just shut down my power user GPT account because I asked for the name of the organization, and then they gave me a bunch, and then without thinking, I followed up looking for their child porn database, and
you don't get
the GPT context window did not like that at all. But it turns out this database and this office has fractured into at least 4 separate ones, which of course means there are now 4 more copies of this thing floating around, and with like little or no oversight. So I'm sure the problem hasn't gotten any better. However, as a point of interest, it is incumbent on me to point out that the term child pornography is increasingly replaced in official context with child sexual abuse material, in parentheses, CSAM.
CSAM, yeah. Yeah, I don't understand why. I mean, I don't understand why we need new words for that.
It's just the regime.
No, the only reason why you would do that is to distance pornography from child pornography.
Love to
the
hate.
Only reason you would do
028,
that,
by the way, is angry with me for not being Geo and Hudson. I apologize. I apologize for not being up to snuff.
And here you are talking about snuff.
Yeah. Randall Shirker says Apple and Microsoft are both involved in this program, which surprises me not one single
0%. Yeah. Oh man, Steam Shovel's tagline for their zine was all conspiracy, no theory. Amazing. Based. All right. Part 2, there's something about Henry. Also McGowan goes hard with the titles, by the way. You don't understand me. You're not expected to. You're not capable of it. I'm beyond good and evil. Legions of the night breed. Repeat not the errors of the night prowler and show no mercy. Richard, the Night Stalker Ramirez. There are no other sons out there. God help the world. There are other sons out there. God help the world. David Berkowitz, the son of Sam. What about your children? You say there are just a few? There are many, many more coming in the same direction. They're running in the streets, and they're coming right at you. Charles Miles Manson. I didn't know that was his middle name.
I didn't either. I was like, wow, mild Miles.
The really scary thing is that there are a lot of people who are not in prison. A lot of people who aren't in prison who were far more successful than I am. Theodore Robert Bundy. That's the funny thing for him to say. The scary thing is there's murderers out there.
Love to hate his back for more. He says they have far more history and additional info to provide. Fascinating. I've been trying to scale back because I don't want to flatten the audience with the sheer breadth of my knowledge about child trafficking,
Yeah.
I actually don't know a lot about. We did 2 books that I knew a lot about, and now we're on second book that I don't know a lot about.
All across the country, there's people just like me who set out to destroy human life. Henry Lee Lucas. Yeah.
Uncle Ted says Bundy was railroaded so hard. That's a take.
All right. Chapter 7, Sympathy for the Devil.
Hey, oh my gosh.
What are you? Did a bitch just walk into the room? Sandbatch?
Look.
All right. Henry is an unusual prisoner. He's been given a high security cell and a few special amenities. Jim Boutwell, sheriff of Williamson County, Texas. All right. On June 30th, 1998, Henry Lee Lucas, arguably the most prolific and certainly one of the most sadistic serial killers in the annals of American crime, was scheduled for execution by the state of Texas. Given the advocacy of the death penalty by the then Governor George W. Bush, things were not looking good for Henry. Bush had not granted clemency to any condemned man throughout his tenure as governor. In fact, no governor of any state at any time in the history of the country had carried out more judicial executions than Governor Bush faced. So Texas was definitely not the place to be for a man in Henry's position. And considering the nature of Lucas's crimes, it seemed a certainty that nothing would stand in the way of his scheduled execution. Henry did not attract any high-profile supporters the way that Carla Faye Tucker did. Then again, even personal appeals to Bush from the likes of Pat Robertson failed to dissuade the governor from proceeding on schedule with Miss Tucker's execution. There was nothing to indicate that Henry would fare any better, particularly since his crimes were of a particularly brutal nature, involving rape, torture, mutilation, dismemberment, necrophilia, cannibalism, and pedophilia. His tally of victims ran as high as 300 to 600 by some accounts, including Henry's own at times. Though such figures are likely inflated. Yeah, definitely inflated. He was trying to bump those numbers up.
Do you know who I noticed? Yeah, because I went down this rabbit hole a couple of nights ago. I noticed that Ed Gein, who's like the serial killer, his body count was remarkably small. He only had the 2.
Yeah. I mean, it's because he was so fucking crazy that he immediately wrote a letter to the parents saying your daughter was delicious. Thank you. Like,
just couldn't keep his chill long enough to run that count up. Like he didn't know it was going to be a game. It was
Thank you. Signed Ed Gein. Yeah. He was also a necrophiliac to be fair. So, which if you got to plow a corpse, go for the ones that are already dead. Let's see here. What seems certain is that Lucas, frequently working with erstwhile partner Otis Toole, a self-described arsonist and cannibal, sometimes bros just meet each other. You know, sometimes you just meet a bro, and you're like, hey, bro, want to do some wild crimes, some wild ass crimes? And he's like, fuck yeah, bro. Lee Lucas and Toole, let's do it. They savagely murdered dozens of victims at various ages, races, and genders. All indications were that Henry's execution was a foregone conclusion. Then a most remarkable thing happened. On June 18th, just 12 days before Henry's scheduled demise, Governor Bush made a special request that the Texas State Board of Pardons and Paroles, whose members were all Bush appointees, to review Henry's case. Strangely enough, 8 days later, the board uncharacteristically issued a recommendation that Henry's execution not take place. The next day, just 3 days short of Henry's scheduled exit from this world, Lucas became the first and ultimately only recipient of Governor Bush's compassionate conservatism. The official rationale for this act of mercy was that the evidence on which Lucas was sentenced did not support his conviction. There's a possibility, said the board, that Henry was in fact innocent of the crime for which he was convicted.
Which Bush is this?
W.
So this is in Texas?
Yeah.
I mean, he's been there's been a Bush that was the governor of Florida.
But it was W. Yeah. Just homies being dudes. The problem here is that many of the 150 plus death row inmates who did not receive special gubernatorial attention prior to their executions had evidence supporting their claims of innocence, and yet their appeals to the governor were met with scorn and mockery. So Ed Bush suddenly developed a keen interest in not executing innocent convicts. And why, once Henry's life was spared, did he promptly lose this passing interest and begin once again rubber stamping every execution order that crossed his desk, including one for a great-grandmother in her 60s who was convicted of killing her chronically abusive husband? And why is it that Henry was granted full clemency rather than a temporary stay during which his case could have been reviewed? That is exactly what Bush did on the case of convicted murderer Ricky Nolan McGinn. Tellingly, the proliferation of press reports on the McGinn case made no mention of the governor's early actions on behalf of Lucas. And what if Lucas was in fact falsely convicted? And what if his innocence was so obvious that the governor had no choice but to commute Henry's sentence? What then does that say about the Texas criminal justice system and the ease with which it sends innocent men to their deaths?
Oh.
Are we to believe that Henry's case was an isolated one and that none of the other men put to death during Bush's reign had equally credible claims of innocence? And what are we to make of the rather peculiar fact that while Henry has been convicted of no fewer than 11 homicides, the only death sentence he ever received was the one that the governor had no problem setting aside? Maybe Henry just had uncannily good luck. He had at one time been scheduled to stand trial for 4 additional homicides, crimes for which his partner had already been convicted. The trial, however, was canceled on economic grounds, said to be a waste of taxpayer money since Henry was already scheduled to die.
Yeah.
Was Henry just extraordinarily lucky to have his only death sentence set aside by a governor who handed out but one commutation?
No, we're going too far here.
What? Obviously,
I don't think W is.
There's of course there's you don't think the son of the head of the CIA had anything going on?
Yeah, that's a good point, but I think he's too retarded.
Project Zapata, yeah, but he'll do something. He's a go along guy. He'll do. Yeah, obviously he's not the brains of the operation.
I'm just saying, I detect I detect Clintonite. I detect Clintonite sympathies in the authorial voice at this point.
I do not think. Okay, all right. Well, let's just. I'm sure he's going to say that there was a reason. So
we'll find out.
Yeah. Love to hate is right though. Funny how that never came up during the 2000 and 2004 election campaign. Yeah, but I mean, like, how is Al Gore and John Kerry gonna say he commuted the sentence of a serial killer? You know, like, that's, you can't do that as a Democrat. It's like, yeah, the Democrats gonna pause because the Democrats would like just pause all of the federal executions.
That's so true.
Yeah. So anyway, let's see. Or was there something more at work in the Lucas case? Surely there had to be some reason why Bush would take the uncharacteristic actions to spare the life of a man who had led a life of such brutality. And this was certainly not the first time the criminal justice system had shown such inexplicable leniency towards Lucas. The first big break for Henry came in June 1970, when he was released early from a sentence he was then serving for following his first murder conviction. Sentenced to 20 to 40 years, Henry was released after serving 10, just after he appeared before the parole board and explained to them that he was not ready to return to society and would surely kill again if released. As Henry told it, the questioning went something like this. Now, Mr. Lucas, I must ask you, if we grant you parole, will you kill again? Henry, yes, sir. If you release me now, I will kill again. Nevertheless, the board decided that 10 years was an adequate amount of time to serve for the crime of killing his mother. Within a year of his release, Henry found himself back in prison after attempting to abduct a young girl. Despite his prior criminal record, which began long before the killing of his mother, Lucas served just 4 years before again being granted an early release. This time in August 1975. Beginning shortly thereafter and continuing for nearly 8 years, Henry and his new friend Otis committed an untold number of lurid murders. Henry was finally arrested in October 1982 on suspicion of committing 2 murders, but he was promptly released. He was not arrested again for the last time until June 1983. Wow. Greatest hits of Henry Lee Lucas. After the final arrest, Henry was taken on tour, so to speak, by various law enforcement officials around the country, during which time he confessed to committing some 600 murders in 26 states. There were various charges made at the time that Henry was being used by his escorts to clear troublesome unsolved murders in places he'd never been. Yep. That quite likely was the case. Henry seemed to have a very chummy relationship with his captors, particularly the Texas Rangers, and provided a valuable service to them by taking the rap for an amazing array of murders. That alone, however, does not explain the personal attention given to Henry's case by Governor Bush. Governor W. For that, we need to look at some of the more infrequently noted details of Henry's life history, many of which have been provided by Lucas himself. Henry, as it turns out, has some interesting tales to tell. Just a couple years into his incarceration, he told a story in a book written for him by a sympathetic author. The book, entitled The Hand of Death, the Henry Lee Lucas story, tells of Henry's indoctrination into a nationwide satanic cult. Lucas claimed that he was trained by the cult in mobile paramilitary training camp in the Florida Everglades. His training, he said, included instructions in abduction and arson techniques, as well as in the fine art of killing, up close and personal. Henry further claimed the leaders of the camp were so impressed with his handling of a knife that he was allowed to serve as an instructor. Following his training, Henry claimed that he served the cult in various ways, including as a contact killer and abductor of children. Contract killer, excuse me, whom he delivered to a ranch in Mexico near Juarez. Once there, they were used in the production of child pornography and for ritual sacrifices. Henry has said that this cult operations were based in Texas, including trafficking in children and drugs, among other illegal pursuits. They like to dabble in a little B&E, a little tax fraud, just to keep it loose.
I mean, that's like among the various things people have in this book have done. That is like the minimal.
I mean, you basically
you
have to do
like if you find yourself stuck in this book, the guys that are just doing breaking and entering are the ones that you ask for help.
Yeah, please. I know you're a thief. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. What Henry claimed, essentially, is that what appeared to be the random work of a serial killer was in fact a planned series of crimes, often committed for specific purposes. Some of the murders were political hits, according to Henry, including assassinations of foreign dignitaries, local politicians, and wealthy businessmen. This was not true for all of Henry's crimes. Some he did just because that's what he liked to do. And it was the one thing that he was really good at. When you've got a skill, right?
Yeah, it's just what it's like. Maybe it's crime,
Yeah. The beauty of this arrangement is that it allowed Henry to conceal the true motive for many of his crimes. Those performed as contract hits looked like all of his murders. Senseless, random acts of violence. In Henry's version of events, it was Toole who was responsible for Henry's recruitment and training by the cult, and for many of the pair's exploits thereafter. It does kind of make sense that if you're going to be a contract killer, right? If you're going to be an assassin and you want the murders that you do to look like murders, but also look like random murders, then you should probably get your feet wet with one or two random murders, right?
Yeah.
Like you should just be like, I did this one randomly, and
dude,
I'm gonna get in that same headspace. And I'm just gonna knife him. I'm just gonna go for it.
Just like murdering people is tough business.
Yeah, murdering people you don't know. Well, that's
still tough business.
That's just business. That's just business.
I mean, there's some things to be said for murdering randos, rather than somebody that you've been like stalking for a while, because they're gonna look at the ones that you've been stalking. They're gonna be like, it was this dude that's been stalking her. It makes it much truly random crime is actually kind of hard to catch you doing. The system is not really set up to catch totally random violence.
Pac-Man Respecter says, I have some doubts because if he was being honest about it, his handlers would have just killed him and found another. Yeah, I mean, fair enough, right? Yeah. In Henry's version of events, it was exploits. Interestingly, all the standard biographies of the pair, Toole is said to have been Henry's severely retarded and decidedly junior partner. It is quite clear, though, from reading the interview granted by Toole to a journalist of sorts, that he was not by any means retarded. Uneducated, no doubt, but certainly not severely retarded. Otis was able to express himself quite clearly, not like a retard, though perversely, and displayed a substantial level of knowledge about the practices of Satanism, which a retard couldn't remember, which isn't really surprising given that he was, as Joel Norris has written, raised as the devil's child by his Satanist grandmother. Meemaw has a lovely chicken for you to sacrifice today, little boy. Little Otis. Wow. Toole has described a childhood that was complete with all the trappings of satanic ritual abuse of a non-retarded child. He is told of being forced to have sex with numerous family members and others, including his father, his stepfather's friends, and his older sister Drusilla.
I love the name. That's a great name.
Wow.
It's a Southern name.
Yeah.
It's like Genevieve, Drusilla. There's a couple of them. You don't see those anymore. I briefly dated a woman named Drusilla.
Was her last name Toole?
No.
Well, different one. His grandmother, who lived with Otis's father as man and wife, although they were actually mother and son, is said to have been a member of a multi-generational death cult. Okay, look, if he's the product of mother-son incest, maybe he is retarded.
Maybe.
I mean, just a little. He's got a little.
Of course, it's like specifying that he wasn't acting retarded at the time. You know.
Yeah, that wasn't retarded at the time.
I mean, he was retarded normally, but he was being less retarded the day he killed those ladies. Like, okay.
Let's see. Toole once explained to an interviewer how he had been involved in all this since I was a child, through the cult, as their house retard.
Through the group.
He has spoken of having urine poured on him, of eating dog meat, and of watching two cats fight to their death while their blood dripped down upon him. Oh, so he was like under the like cat fight arena or something.
Everybody
like
do
that.
this to retards.
I don't know. Well, I mean, do they? Because it says he's not retarded.
Yes.
Why did they do this to non-retards? The thing about watching two cats fight to their death while their blood dripped down on him, it just implies a level of infrastructure that's a little impressive, because it had to be porous enough for, like, he had to be able to see it, right? And the cat blood had to be dripping on him, right? But the cats had to be physically standing on it too, so it had to be robust enough. So, are we talking about like layers of wire, or maybe like some plexiglass with holes drilled in it? Like, what is the infrastructure here? How do you build the cat fight drip arena? Like, how do you do that?
I mean, I can GPT that up if you want
GPT. Hey, Claude, please design me.
Just gonna give him the specs, maybe not necessarily the
Uncle Ted says wood slats. There's no way you're gonna get a good enough view. I mean, look, you got to have a better view, right? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was like a plexiglass surface that that was like canted in such a way.
You have to remember, these are southern rednecks. They can jimmy something up.
I'm just saying they created a cat death fight tournament for this.
Dude, dog fighting, cat fighting,
but the fact that you're looking up at them while their blood drips on you is like a whole other level of engineering.
Yeah.
Sex Freakman and the cat.
This is like the Las Vegas dome of cat.
Sex Freakman says these guys engineered some kind of cat coliseum just to keep him away from the TV. Yeah. Oh yeah, Uncle Ted is right. Plexiglass in Florida in the 1960s. Yeah, you're right. It couldn't have been plexiglass. It had to be wire. It had to just be like,
literally
quarter-inch gap wire.
It was chicken wire.
The cats couldn't stand on chicken wire.
It was a chicken wire dome with a piece of plywood underneath it. Is what
it had to be like quarter-inch wire grid or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Something like that.
All right. All right, glad we established that.
Again, one of the
Respecter.
less absolutely offensive topics that this book has brought up.
Yeah, exactly. Pac-Man Respecter says, my base trad wife building animal gladiatorial arenas to entertain the children. No iPads in this household. Yes. It's just, also that's like the least bad thing that this cult did. So like, Otis had also had this to say of his childhood years. I used to go with my grandmother into graveyards. We used to dig up all kinds of bones, and she used to take the bones and do devil worship. He was also told of once being forced into a grave to pluck the bones from a freshly rotting corpse. Young Otis was also frequently dosed with barbiturates, and he has said that he used to hear voices. Tool's older
barbiturates fixed him right up.
Yeah, no kidding. Barbs. Tool's older sister, Drusilla, spent time in a mental hospital, after which she reportedly committed suicide. Her children were placed in the care of their uncle Otis and his friend Henry Lee Lucas. Wow, thanks, CPS. Two of them,
the South
Frida,
be wild, and the South absolutely be wild.
Yeah. Two of them, Frida and Frank Powell, accompanied the pair on their homicidal wanderings and were forced to witness and at times participate in the rape, killing, and mutilation of the victims. Frida, aka Becky, ended up scattered in a field after suffering years of sexual abuse at the hands of Henry and Otis. Frank fared slightly better. He was committed to a mental hospital. A third sibling, Sarah Pierce, who shared with their uncle Otis a passion for arson, was convicted and imprisoned for indulging in her passion. Wow, you're just gonna tell kids to follow their passion and then send them to prison for doing it. Wow. Lucas also suffered through an incomprehensibly abusive childhood. In fact, when it comes to early childhood abuse, there are few parents of future serial killers who can compare to Viola Lucas, Henry's mother.
Viola.
Well, was that
Viola.
his grandmother or his mother?
There's no way to tell at this point.
All right. Or his aunt. How does this work? So severe was her physical abuse of young Henry that he once slipped into a coma for a day following a particularly brutal beating. On another occasion, through a combination of abuse and neglect, Henry lost one of his eyes. Viola was, as is the case with mothers of many serial killers, a prostitute. She routinely entertained her customers in the presence of Henry, who was compelled to watch. Viola also dressed young Henry up as a girl for the first 7 years of his life and prostituted him out to her customers.
That's okay.
Wow, and now and you're telling me that now we're doing that in grade schools?
Yeah.
Wow. Viola also dressed young Henry up as a girl. Tool has also spoken of being forced to dress as a girl. Though Henry and Otis may represent extreme cases, their horrific childhood should not come as much of a surprise to most readers. I think that's fair.
Who've already had all expectations of humanity dashed.
Yeah, who have. If you've gotten this far in the book, you clearly have no hope for the future. That serial killers have suffered abusive childhoods has become something of a cliche. It is in fact that boring, get new material. Yeah. It is a fact acknowledged in most serial killer biographies, though it is usually followed by the caveat that such childhood history does not excuse subsequent actions. Western society preaches that we are ultimately responsible for our own actions. Scapegoating society or a horrendously abusive childhood is simply not acceptable. Do we not all, after all, of our own free will, regardless of our past? That is certainly what we have been conditioned to believe. But what if we do not all act of our own free will? What if a lifetime of being bombarded with propaganda has to some extent deprived us of that ability? And what if some of us have been completely robbed of the ability to exercise free will? And what if suffering through a chronically abusive childhood lays the groundwork for that to occur? And what if Viola Lucas was right when she told young Henry, I'm going to teach you the beauty of pain, and you're going to be my slave for the rest of your life? And what if Henry could only break the bonds of that slavery by killing dear old mom? And finally, What if by killing her, Lucas only succeeded in acquiring a new slave master? What are we to make of Henry's bizarre tale of being a contract killer? And what of Henry's other stories, including the one about being a close friend of Jim Jones of the People's Temple? Henry claimed on numerous occasions that it was he who was taken on a chartered plane to Guyana to personally deliver the cyanide to Jones that was allegedly used in the now infamous Jonestown massacre. What are we to make of such stories? Could Henry have been telling the truth about being a contract killer? And if so, did the contract he was receiving have some kind of government connection? Though Henry did not address the subject in his book, the training camp, as he described it, clearly had military connections. And Henry has explicitly stated that the cult included among its members various socially prominent individuals, including high-level politicians. Could that be the reason for the actions taken by Governor George W. Bush in June 1998? They think I'm stupid, but before all this is over, everyone will know who's really stupid. And we'll see who the real criminals are. That retard Otis Toole. Henry Lee Lucas. Oh, wait. It was Otis. It was Otis whose grandmother was his mother? Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Otis is the one. So Viola Lucas is the one who was actually his mother. I don't like the punishment should be tied to culpability necessarily. I think that the law and morality don't need to completely overlap. Like, the law is supposed to,
giving away your non-Anglo here is what you're doing.
The law is supposed to punish behavior, right? Someone can be like, if someone truly was retarded, right? The fact that they have committed a heinous crime actually means that they should get a more severe punishment because they are less capable of reforming. While they might be less morally culpable, they're going to commit again. And they're going to, because they don't understand that what they have done is wrong. They can't
I
be
agree
corrected.
with you on certain grounds, but I'm pretty anti-death penalty in the abstract.
I'm pretty pro death penalty in the abstract.
Yeah.
And in practice. Just generally.
I'm more in favor of vigilante justice than I am of institutional executions.
Bobby Dean was the good one. Uh-oh. It looks like we have an error.
An error.
Uh-oh. Oh man. Yeah, we got some truncations in our chapter here. Tragic. Might have to find a new copy of this book. Let me see.
To hell? Is it just me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you not hear me? He can't hear me. It's over. It's Jover. All right. There we go. Chapter 8.
Unfortunately, chat, I can't tell if it's me that's gone or if it's Cap that's gone.
I can hear you.
Oh.
Hey, chat, can you tell us which one of us, can you tell us if you can hear both of us or which ones you can hear, if either? Yes, everyone
can't hear each other though.
I can hear. God damn it! I can't tell him that I can hear him. All right,
I can't hear him. Maybe. Interesting.
Reconnect.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna exit and re-enter and see.
Yes, correct. Jesus Christ. Oh my Lord. Lord Almighty. This fucking version of this book is terrible. There's McMolestation. I gotta find an unbroken copy of Program to Kill. There we go. Sandbatch, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. They do.
Great. I could hear you the whole time.
They tried to fucking get me. I'm over here telling the truth, telling these people about the Finders cult, and the black helicopters came for me.
They did. All right. I think I found. Keep talking while I find the page we're supposed to be on.
So you lost everything?
No, the issue is that the book is that one is corrupted and this one is poorly formatted.
There's no
that one
escape.
I have the physical copies of all the books we've covered. I just hate buying I hate buying an electronic copy for exactly the same price as the physical.
Dude,
so,
I'm not the biggest fan because I'm going through this process of book creation right now, and like somebody asked me, like, you're gonna make it available for on EPUB. I'm like, it's fucking poetry. If you're reading poetry at all, fuck you. Thanks for purchasing. But if you're reading poetry on an e-reader, fuck off.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
I think I am gonna do it. It's an extra like I already vibe coded a tool that'll do it for me, but I'm like, who reads poetry on an e-reader? There must be somebody out there, but Krivolapova gave me a good reason to do it, which is that people overseas or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a good point.
Yeah. 4 Club says, be careful, Cap. The missing chapter contains your activation phrase.
Yes. Again, I don't understand why you all think we're not fully fucking activated here.
Obviously activated. All right, we're just going to try this one, and we may or may not get to the broken bit, but we'll figure it out. It's like being a movie star. You're just playing the part. Henry Lee Lucas describing what it's like to be a serial killer. A U.S. Navy psychologist claims that the Office of Naval Intelligence had taken convicted murderers from military prisons, used behavior modification techniques on them, and then relocated them in American embassies throughout the world. The Navy psychologist was Lieutenant Commander Thomas Narut of the U.S. Regional Medical Center in Naples, Italy. The information was divulged at a Oslo NATO conference of 120 psychologists from the 11 Nation Alliance. The Navy provided all the funding necessary, according to Narut. Dr. Narut, in a question and answer session with reporters from many nations, revealed how the Navy was secretly programming large numbers of assassins. He said that the men had worked with the Navy were being prepared for commando-type operations, as well as covert operations in U.S. embassies worldwide. He described the men who went through his program as hitmen and assassins who could kill on command. Careful screening of these subjects was accompanied. See, this sounds like a fucking op, doesn't it?
It does.
Like, the fact that he's talking about it sounds like an op because this is incredibly public.
Yeah.
Yeah. Careful screening of subjects was accompanied by Navy psychologists through the military records, and many were convicted murderers serving military prison sentences. So said the Napa Sentinel, a series of articles published from August to November 1991. Anyone familiar with the intelligence community's long-standing obsession with the concept of mind control will immediately recognize what Dr. Narut was describing as an MKUltra project. The existence of this particular manifestation of the project was first reported by British journalist Peter Watson of the Sunday Times, who attended the conference and interviewed Dr. Narut, who told him that they were looking for candidates who had shown a proclivity for violence. This was at a time when numerous pseudo-investigations of the intelligence community were being undertaken, including those by the Rockefeller, Pike, and Church committees. Narut told Watson that he was revealing what was obviously highly classified information only because he assumed that it was about to surface anyway. As it turned out, Narut seriously overestimated the interests of the various committees in practicing full disclosure. After making his unauthorized comments, Narut promptly disappeared from public view. He reappeared briefly to make a feeble attempt at retracting his prior statements, but at that point, it was a little too late. Watson went on to expand upon his initial research and to produce a book, War on the Mind, which was one of the better books from the late 1970s on the subject of mind control and psychological warfare research by the intelligence community. Walter Browart referenced Watson's work as well in his difficult-to-find Operation Mind Control. So this cat, once let out of the bag, proved rather difficult to shuffle back inside, you dig? The intelligence community, it seemed, was recruiting from prisons to make use of the natural talents of convicted killers to produce the fabled Manchurian candidates, otherwise known as mind control assassins. The operation described by Narut involved killers drawn from military prisons, though there is a good possibility that parallel programs were being conducted in civilian prisons as well.
Has every book that we've touched mentioned the Manchurian Candidate? I think
yes.
Manchurian Candidate has come up in every single book.
I'm just wondering, man, has anyone tried using actual Manchurians? I mean, right? Like, maybe the problem is that none of these candidates are actual Manchurians. Maybe that's what Japan was doing during the when they invaded Manchuria, the sexual assault of Nanking, right? Maybe that's what they were trying to do. Have we thought of that? Maybe the Japanese had it right the whole time, and we're just thinking we got to do it ourselves. Well, I'll tell you what, mister. The next time you try one of these programs, you got to get some real Chinamen. You got to get some real Chinamen. You know what? Maybe that guy, the guy who did the VTech shooting, maybe he was the first Manchurian candidate.
Randall Sharker says this book is trying to take all of us down with it. This is the first book that's fought back.
Yes.
The world's like, again, Jolon West, it appears to not be actually, despite references to both Jim Jones, a cult when he was at the peak of his cult. Actually, I think Jolly West's
West cult stuff was in the 80s.
Jolly West's absence is
and 90s, yeah.
It's Jolly West's absence here is profoundly loud.
Yeah, it's a big gap. Although, again, he tended to fuck
the world's most competent man interested specifically in this subject at this specific time, and nowhere to be found.
But Jolly West did also specifically try to target normal people.
That's true. Yeah.
His interest was in normal people.
Yeah, hillbillies in Tallahassee, not necessarily his bag.
Well, like he wanted subjects who might have some degree of preconditioning.
Right.
But I think that this level was beyond.
I mean, you would think he's probably at least getting memos.
Sure. I'm sure he's reading the notes for Let's see. Let's see, where the fuck did I go? The intelligence community, it seemed, was recruiting from prisons to make use of the natural talents of convicted killers to produce the fabled Manchurian candidates, otherwise known as mind control assassins. The operation described by Narut involved killers drawn from military prisons. There was a good possibility that parallel programs were being conducted in civilian prisons as well. Prisons, after all, have provided fertile ground for any number of MKUltra sub-projects for decades. As the Napa Sentinel article noted, mind control experiments permeate mental institutions and prisons. That was particularly true in the 1960s and 70s. The NATO conference at which Dr. Narut dropped his bombshell was held in July 1975. Strangely enough, the very next month, August 1975, Henry Lee Lucas was released early from prison to begin his 8-year reign of terror. Strangely enough, during his prior 10-year prison stay, Henry spent 4.5 of those years in a mental ward. Throughout that time, he received intensive drug and electroshock treatments. He later described that period of incarceration as a nightmare that would not end. During that time, he complained constantly about hearing voices in his head, taunting him day and night. This was ostensibly the reason for his confinement in the mental ward. though it could just as well have been the result of his confinement and treatment. Henry later spent an additional time in an institution in 1980 in the midst of his killing spree. Amazing that he manages the time to kill while incarcerated. Oh man, Sex Freakman, so right here. I feel like this is the reverse of survivorship bias. Wouldn't you want the talents of the ones who weren't convicted? Sex Freakman, I feel like I'm sensing the beginnings of a job application from you. Is that right?
Yeah.
Any Fed boys listening, slide into Sex Freakman's DMs. Is it possible that Henry was recruited and programmed while in prison so that he could later be used by the so-called Hand of Death cult? Lucas himself said that he emerged from prison a changed man. Before his incarceration, he killed only in the heat of the moment, but when he re-entered society, it was with a cold-blooded determination, the professed desire to kill as many people as possible. And he certainly had shown a voracious appetite for violence, enough so to make him a very attractive candidate for an assassin training program. Indeed, Henry is just the kind of man who would be considered a valuable asset by the intelligence community. For anyone who doubts that the CIA or any of the other numerous interwoven intelligence agencies would recruit such a man, it is important to remember that we are talking here about the same agencies that recruited some of the most notorious war criminals of the Third Reich. Men like Klaus Barbie, Joseph Mengele, Adolf Eichmann, Otto Skorenzi, and Reinhard Gehlen. Henry's depravity pales with the shadows of men such as those. I don't think it does. I don't really think it does. Lucas probably couldn't even hold his own against some of the organized crime figures like Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, and Santos Trafficante. Oh, good old Trafficante.
Yeah.
We remember Trafficante.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another LMD favorite.
Another LMD, Mr. Trafficante, yeah. Who were likewise recruited by the U.S. intelligence community or against the numerous thugs that the CIA has propped up as dictators around the world, such as Somoza,
it's so much
Pinochet,
editorializing.
Duvalier, and Pahlavi, to name just a few. Take fucking Pinochet's name out your motherfucking mouth. Pinochet was not making children cover themselves in shit and drink pee. Like, come on. In the company of such men, Henry would be just one of the boys, no less valuable an asset than, say, Dan Mitrione, the CIA torture aficionado, who was a boyhood friend of the infamous Jim Jones. Mitrione, known for having homeless persons kidnapped for the purpose of giving torture demonstration to South American security forces in his soundproof underground chamber of horrors, was hailed as a hero and a martyr when he himself was tortured and killed. Frank Sinatra and Jerry Lee Lewis even flew to his old hometown and performed a benefit show to raise money for the widow of such a great American. Okay.
Frank Sinatra and Jerry Lee Lewis?
Jerry Lewis. Not Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lewis.
Okay, not Jerry Lee. Oh, like Frank Sinatra and Jerry Lee Lewis is a wild lineup.
Number one, Mitrione. Who was he torturing, though? Communists.
I was just one of these things where, like, I was like briefly excited of the possibility of Jerry Lee Lewis and Frank Sinatra duetting on some of my favorite. Because I'm like, if that happened and there's no recording, there is no God. You know.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Flew into his hometown, performed a benefit show. So in the world of spooks, Henry would be in good company, as would his partner Otis Toole, who would not even have the distinction of being the only cannibal recruited by the CIA. As Douglas Valentine revealed in the Phoenix program, the CIA's assassination, torture, and terror program waged against the people of Vietnam, the Phoenix teams consisted of U.S. Navy SEALs working with CTs, described by one participant as a combination of ARVN deserters, VC turncoats, and bad motherfucker criminals the South Vietnamese couldn't deal with in prison, so they turned them over to us. The spooks were only too happy to employ the services of these men, who taught their SEAL comrades the secrets of the Psy War campaign. So depraved were their agency recruits that some of them would actually devour their enemies' vital organs, all in a day's work for America's premier intelligence agency. Well, to be honest, I do think that's kind of cool. But, yeah. Also included in the CIA Rogues Gallery of Distinguished Alumni, according to a number of researchers, is Lucas's self-described close friend, the aforementioned Jim Jones. What then are we to make of Henry's professed connection to the tragic People's Temple? Several investigators have documented that the Jonestown massacre was not by any means a case of mass suicide, as reported by the U.S. press. It was in fact a case of mass murder. The Guyanese coroner, Dr. C. Leslie Mutu, going to trust this guy. Where'd you get your fucking PhD, bud? Concluded that only a handful of the 913 victims at Jonestown died by means of suicide on that fateful day. All the rest were summarily executed, some by lethal injection, some by strangulation, and some simply shot through the head. It's apparent then that if Lucas was in fact at Jonestown at the time of the mass murder, he was quite likely doing considerably more than just serving as a delivery boy. A man of Henry's talents would be an invaluable asset in a cleanup operation of that type. And what was being cleaned up was, of course, itself an MKUltra project, complete with vast stockpiles of drugs, sensory deprivation equipment, and a band of zombie-like assassins who gunned down Congressman Leo Ryan's entourage just before the massacre, thus necessitating the cleanup operation. So speaking of Leo Ryan, was that the U.S. dignitary who Henry Lee Lucas was talking about? Like, who was he talking about?
It's hard
to be there. Yeah.
Sorry, there's like stuff going on in my house real quick.
Horrifying. FBI, open up. All right.
The doorbell rang a second ago, and I was briefly horrified.
Yeah,
it was like they've already tried to take me out one way. They're coming to do it. They're coming to do the job in meat space.
Honestly, all of San Francisco has just been fucking spook central because that's where Jim Jones is from.
San Francisco is. Oh yeah, God, there's all kinds. There's reasons for that.
Yeah. It is strange that Henry would claim a connection to a man whose operation was notable primarily for being a breeding ground for mind control, assassins, and mass murder.
Wait, but Jim Jones is from Ohio.
Yeah, but the People's Temple started in San Francisco.
I thought it was in Los Angeles.
Fuck no. No, there was total San Francisco connection.
It jives better that way.
Anyway. Strange then that Henry would claim a connection to a man whose operations was notable primarily for being a breeding ground for mind control, assassins, and mass murder. Several years after the publication of Henry's book, journalist Maury Terry told a story with chilling parallels to the one told by Henry and Otis. Pelosi and Jim Jones have a lot of political connections. I mean, obviously Pelosi was a lot younger. Yeah. They had significant
the kind of thing she would be into also, Yeah,
I mean, like ostensibly. I mean, he was an actual communist, but
right.
But yeah, I mean they came up in the same era, and like they both got help from the same people.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, several years after the publication of Henry's book, journalist Maury Terry told a story with chilling parallels to the one told by Henry and Otis. What Terry revealed in The Ultimate Evil is that the murders attributed to the son of Sam and the Manson family, as well as numerous other interconnected killings, including possibly the Zodiac murders, were not what they appeared to be. Rather than the random work of serial and mass murderers, many were actually contract hits carried out for specific purposes by an interlocking network of satanic cults. In other words, they were professional hits orchestrated and disguised to look like the work of yet another lone nut serial killer. That is, of course, exactly what Henry claimed his crimes to be, several years before Terry published his compellingly documented work. Terry's book has been unfairly maligned by much of the media. His contention is that David Berkowitz had nothing to do with the planning of the killings. He was just one of several gunmen. Berkowitz was essentially a patsy who took the fall to protect the rest of the cult, particularly those members who travel in the upper strata of society. That scenario has been roundly ridiculed. Hey, David Berkowitz, can we check if he's the member of a certain tribe? Can you Jamie that up for me real quick?
What is the specific question?
David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, early life check.
I mean, dude, come on.
No, I'm just saying. I'm sure of what the answer is.
Yeah, I mean, like I literally just GPT David Berkowitz, was he a Jew? And yes is the answer. Of course
Yes.
he was. Of
Okay,
course
all
he
right.
was.
All right. I'm just saying, okay, that makes me think not a patsy.
But like, here's there's all kinds
That
of
makes
things
me think
going
not
on
a
with
patsy.
him. There's all kinds of things. There's things going on here because he is ethnically a Jew, and he was by birth and by adoption a Jew. However, he converted to evangelical Christianity post-incarceration.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Patsy odds increasing. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Took the fall to protect the rest of the cult, particularly the members who travel in the upper strata. That scenario has been roundly ridiculed. Many of Terry's critics have pointed out the fact that Ed Sanders' The Family, which in a sense had laid the groundwork for Terry's later work, was recalled by its publisher and reissued sans 2 crucial chapters.
How did he get out of jail is the question, though.
Who?
Son of Sam.
He didn't.
It's his post-incarceration.
Really? He got released? Wait, is he still alive and not in prison?
Let's find out. I mean, he's
what's
almost
David
certainly...
Berkowitz up to right now?
No, he says he's not been released. He's serving multiple life sentences.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
The only guy in our LMD space that has been released and is now recording some decent country music is the guy that tried to kill Ray.
John Hinckley.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Let's see. That is purported to be proof that the allegations both authors make, particularly the allegations regarding the Process Church, are without substance. What such critics unerringly fail to mention is that it was only the U.S. publisher that bowed to pressure to recall the book. The book's publisher in the UK, on the other hand, stood behind the book and its author, a decision that withstood legal challenges. Yeah, the Process Church of the whatever. That's a whole separate thing. Let's see. Randall Shirker says, also, I'll note that if you ask me, I think the Satanists were trying to reverse engineer how to make guys like Charles Manson, because there's some weird connections between Manson and various things, which connects to the weird shit that Maury was looking at.
Nothing but weird things between Charles Manson and other things. He's like literally the made in a lab dude.
I wish John Hinckley would. I wish John Hinckley was a fan of LMD.
Dude, we should get John Hinckley to come on the show.
We should get John Hinckley to do the season 4 intro song.
That's literally what I was about to do. Can you imagine Micah Pohl remixing John Hinckley for LMD?
Oh, legendary intro.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, as far as Randall Shirker, hell, that makes sense that you end up having issues with, because of course the MKUltra was started as an attempt to reverse engineer Korean torture methods, and the progress that West and Gottlieb made on that front having to be sort of cobbled together and repeated by people who were, sort of doing a copy of a copy style thing.
Yeah.
Makes sense that you would have some like bad, like really just jacked up outcomes that don't really work very well for a while. So yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Shirker, like Maury said, there were several connections between Manson and the Eastland Institute, which is funny because you dig a bit into it and you find all the connections to that group in Jolly West. Yeah. I mean, Manson is known to have been a frequenter of the San Francisco Free Clinic, which was an operation by Jolly West. So, I mean, the distance of connection is 1, right? Like there's no 6 degrees of separation here. It's actually 1.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's like it's actually gotten so bad that I'm almost certain there is only one degree between us and these people in some cases at this point. It's sort of horrifying.
Based on the people who follow you for some reason.
Oh
Next week, when the competency crisis is real, we've even stopped inventing new types of rape. Yeah. We're going to talk about marital rape. All right, let's see here. Where were Terry's numerous critics also unerringly failed to mention that Queens District Attorney John Santucci reopened the Son of Sam case in 1979 after concluding that Berkowitz did not act alone. I believe that David Berkowitz did not act alone, that in fact others did cooperate, aid and abet him in commission of these crimes. Other things, Santucci pointed out, the sketches of the individuals, the composites, were at wide divergence from Berkowitz. And indeed they were. In fact, the sketches were at wide divergence from one another. As the New York Post noted, the identikit drawings of NYPD, which some say are better than photographs, give several different looks to the killer. Santucci also noted, as did the Post, that an unusual number of people who were connected to the case and who were identified by Berkowitz as being complicit in the crimes are no longer living. Berkowitz, by the way, had a number of interesting connections. Police found numerous telephone numbers scrawled on walls of his apartment, including the unlisted private home numbers of prominent doctors living on Long Island. The number for a large Scientology training center in Florida and the number for the Montauk Golf and Racquet Club, an exclusive country club on Long Island that lies adjacent to a purportedly closed military base that has been tenuously linked by researchers to ongoing mind control operations. I just want to point out, I have had my phone number scrawled on the wall of a schizophrenic's dwelling and have been contacted because of it. So just FYI.
That's also happened to me.
Is this gate program shit or is this more lore?
That's a good question.
No, I think I know exactly why he had it. And
does anybody else know
what?
Does anybody else
I don't want to dox myself, but I know exactly
right.
So a more recent case unreported in the American press closely mirrors the scenario portrayed by Terry, complete with a patsy taking the fall for the crimes of socially prominent and a trail of dead witnesses and accomplices. In 1994, a farmhand named Pietro Passiani was convicted of 14 serial killings committed in Italy's Tuscan woods. Oh, it's a beautiful place to die. In April 2001, the UK's The Times reported that the case had returned to haunt Italy. In a new, even more sinister guise, police in Florence have reopened the case in the light of new evidence. The evidence suggested that while Passiani may have indeed carried out the murders, or some of them, the real masterminds behind the gruesome killings were a group of high society Satanists who carried out and perhaps still carry out weird rituals that beggar belief. Behind the respectable facade of their Tuscan villas, led by a distinguished doctor with a sick and twisted mind. Gabriella Amorth, the most prominent, the head of the Roman Catholics exorcists, commented because there was a missing persons case, a little girl who went missing in Rome, and he said that she was kidnapped from Vatican grounds, and murdered in a sexual ritual with the elites of the city. So I'm just, by the way, as an aside, just pointing out, it can happen anywhere. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. In August 2001, The Guardian added, police now believe that a group of between 10 and 12 wealthy, sophisticated Italians orchestrated ritualized murders over the course of 3 decades and got away with it, allowing their career and reputations to blossom to this day. These unidentified suspects were described as an occult group which directed the murders. The Times article noted that Passiani's conviction was overturned on appeal, but he was about to be retried, which is possible under Italian law, when he died, supposedly of a heart attack.
Whoops.
Although according to too much gabagool, they don't have gabagool in Italy. It's called capicola. But when he died, according to what investigating magistrate on the case, Paolo Cassene, Passiani's death was definitely not due to natural causes. Someone was prescribing a medicine that killed rather than a cure the Passiani. Passiani's defense attorney, Carmelo Lavorino, has noted that at the time of Passiani's death, he wasn't in any danger other than the dying. He has also said that evidence at the scene suggests that Passiani had been dragged by his feet after his death. Most likely explanation is obviously that Passiani was eliminated, as the Guardian put it, lest he reveal the real monster or monsters. According to the Times, a number of other suspicious deaths have surrounded the case. Renato Malatesta, Passiani's close friend, was found hanging in a stable with his feet still resting firmly on the ground. Malatesta's daughter, Milva, was found dead with her 3-year-old son in a burnt-out Fiat Panda. Another burnt-out car was found containing the body of Milva Malatesta's lover, Francesco Vinci, another Passiani acquaintance. A year later came the murder of Anna Milva Mieti, a local prostitute who had an affair with Vinci's son. His body was also burnt. Mamma mia. Investigators have now come to the belated realization that a large network of people were involved in the killing, some studying the most likely spots in which to strike, while others served as lookouts. They all took orders from one person who then took part himself in the actual killings and mutilations. Investigators now believe that the female body parts, the left breast and genitals, were used in black masses at night in remote Tuscan farmhouses. Among those now being sought by authorities is a mystery woman, perhaps a member of the doctor's circle, who beat up Passiani's elderly wife in January 1996, knocked her out with sleeping pills, and searched the house from top to bottom. But why didn't they kill her? Also sought as an artist who Passiani worked for as a gardener, and whose home was found to contain incriminating evidence. He disappeared just days before the trial began and is believed to be hiding out in, of all places, Belgium. By September, by September, yet more of the cover. You know what? It's just more fun when it's happening in Europe, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just more fun.
It needs a jurisdiction hop.
Yeah. Man, we need to get Hercule Poirot on this one. By September, yet another of more of the cover-up was unraveling. Well, thank God the cover-ups unravel in Italy. You know? The Observer dropped a bombshell. The monster of Florence may have been a satanic sect bankrolled by the Secret Service. Suspects by then included a doctor, an ambassador, and an artist. Passiani's death was being treated as a murder, and questions were being raised about his unexplained wealth, which included 2 houses and more than $75,000 in cash. Wait, that's an unbelievable amount of wealth?
It's a lot.
Michele, well, I mean, okay. I'm poor. Probably in Italy, it's a lot. I mean, Italy's pretty poor. Anyway, Michele Guattari, and okay, look, it's not wildly wealthy. Like that's someone that's someone who has saved, right? That's like anyway. Michele Guattari, the investigating magistrate on the case, who has received death threats, has said that the monster of Florence was not Passiani, but a cultured man of great professional success, esteemed and powerful, but with psychopathic hidden impulses. Very sexy. It makes you wonder how many Jekylls and Hydes there are in civilized cities like Florence. Indeed, it does. I watched Silence of the Lambs recently with my wife because she had never seen it, and I'm reminded of when Hannibal Lecter drew the skyline of Florence from memory. Yes. Indeed, it does. Consider the civilized city of Auteuil. I have no idea. Auxerre, France. In late March 2002, The Guardian ran a brief report by a correspondent, John Henley, that began as follows. I think we're almost done with this chapter. Hold on. All right. You want to finish it? We got like a page.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go. All right. The French Justice Ministry took disciplinary action yesterday against 3 prosecutors involved in the case of it. Wait, hold on. The Guardian. Okay. Alleged serial killer escaped prosecution for more than 20 years. The Justice Minister, Marilise Leberchaux, sacked one prosecutor, Daniel Sidlnovic, and transferred another, Jacques Cazal, from his post in the Paris Public Prosecutor's Office for their negligence in the case of Émile Louis. A third retired prosecutor, René Meyer, was stripped of his honorary title. All 3 magistrates worked in the northern Burgundy city of Auxerre in the 1980s and 1990s and were found guilty by a disciplinary panel of a range of serious errors, including lack of professional honor. Wow, France used to be a proper country. 15 months before that report, Émile Louis had confessed to murdering 7 mentally handicapped women who had disappeared without a trace between 1977 and 1979. He had subsequently withdrawn his confession and asserted that the girls had been abused, abducted, and finally killed by a ring of high-ranking local men. At the time of the women's disappearances, investigations had been hastily dropped and the missing women listed as runaways. It was not until more than 2 decades later, following Louis' confession, that a serious inquiry was made into the fate of the missing girls. That inquiry led to what the Guardian referred to as further, even more disturbing discoveries. The chief prosecutor in Auxerre, Suzanne Lecure, said last year that almost all the inquiries into the cases of about 30 young women who vanished in Burgundy over the last 30 years had been either mysteriously shelved or deliberately mishandled. Moreover, the files relating to most of the criminal inquiries shelved in Auxerre between 1958 and 1982, including 17 missing young women, had been either stolen or destroyed, and a dozen post-1982 inquiries involving missing young women, for which the files still remained, had all been inexplicably dropped. Lawyers for the victims' families are talking of a sex ring which abducted, raped, and murdered up to 30 girls in the 1970s and 80s. It was powerful enough to stifle any subsequent investigation. A full inquiry into what may prove the biggest cover-up in French legal history is underway. You know, it seems like in France, finding women to have sex with is a bit of a hat-on-a-hat situation.
Yeah, it's harder than it looks.
I mean, what do you mean?
It's like you think the French are going to be easy, but they're not.
I don't know. I mean, I think they're easy if you're French.
Yeah, possibly even less easy.
Ugh.
I mean, just looking at their birth rates.
Well, yeah. I mean, they don't have kids; they just fuck. Anyway, lawyers for the victims' families are talking. They already said that. In July 2002, the Monster of Florence case was in the news once again. A series of profaned corpses were turning up, and there were indications that these crimes committed against the corpses of the elderly were linked to the case. The first such corpse had been discovered the previous month on the summer solstice. A report in the Sunday Herald indicated that the satanic rites performed in conjunction with the Monster of Florence killings had been conducted at a senior citizens' home where Passiani had once worked as a gardener. Residents at the home at the time include the father of Florence's deputy attorney. Some of the profaned corpses surfacing in the summer of 2002 were also connected to the home. Also revealed in the Herald report was that in 2001, police had raided the home of Aurelio Mattei, a psychiatrist for the French Secret Services. In 1992, Mattei authored a book that alluded to evidence in the Monster case that was not uncovered by investigators until a decade later. Wow. Okay. The home of Francisco Bruno, a criminologist and prominent television talking head, was also raided. Bruno's name was on one of the drug prescriptions that killed Passiani. Any additional information on the case may be difficult to obtain, since the Herald's report also noted that police had issued a news blackout on the ongoing investigation. It seems quite likely, however, that based on the evidence that has surfaced, that Passiani was in fact a fall guy for a cult of powerful individuals. In May 2003, the UK's Guardian reported that convicted French serial killer Patrice Algre was now the lone psychopath. He was not the lone psychopath he was made out to be at his trial last year. According to the sworn statements of former prostitutes, He is alleged to have acted for most of the 1990s as the leader of a sadomasochistic sex ring, supplying women and drugs for debauched and at times violent evenings frequented by senior policemen, judges, businessmen, sports personalities, and politicians. The claim surfaced during a police investigation into allegations that Patrice Allegre, a serial killer who was serving a life sentence for killing 5 women, was for years offered illegal protection by corrupt police and magistrates in the southwestern city of Toulouse. According to a BBC report, Allegre, a policeman's son and employee of the police department's cafeteria, is also under investigation in connection with a criminal network in Toulouse said to have involved minors in cocaine. Other allegations, as recounted by The Observer, involved white slavery. Thanks for being specific. Sadomasochism, rapes, sex with minors, drug dealing, and appalling brutality. All at the heart of the government of one of France's most historic and most civilized cities. It is alleged that these crimes were committed at Toulouse's Palais de Justice and at a chateau owned by Toulouse Council. Toulouse's prosecutor general, Jean Wolf, was fired for covering up links between senior officials and the exploitation of vulnerable girls. 3 judges were scheduled for questioning about acts of torture and barbaric acts of pimping and rapes of underage girls. Allegre claimed that at least some of the murders he committed were ordered by some of Toulouse's most prominent citizens. The killings, he said, served to silence witnesses and eliminate blackmail threats arising from what The Guardian described as sadomasochistic orgies involving politicians, judges, and police. 2 former prostitutes who had been recruited by Allegre for some of those parties corroborated his allegations. One judge admitted that there was some truth to the story told by the 2 women of an official cover-up of Allegre's crimes. Another judge has admitted to drinking with Allegre, who is known to have run Toulouse's prostitution business in the early 90s. As the investigation progressed, Dominique Baudy, a former television host, found himself at the center of the scandal. He was perhaps the most prominent politician in Toulouse, having served as mayor from 1983 to 2001, long fucking tenure, preceded by his father from 1971 to 1983. Wow, long, quite the dynasty. Baudy was named as one of the 4 powerful figures that reportedly ordered the murders. The other 3 were not named, but one was said to be a high-ranking police officer and another a senior magistrate. Baudy reportedly owned a lake house equipped with hidden cameras where sadomasochistic orgies were held. The French periodical Le Monde sought to assure readers that the accusations arising from the orgies were not about simulated acts of torture and erotic games among consenting adults. This was real torture, accompanied by other degrading acts committed against prostitutes, some of whom were underage. By early June 2003, the Sunday Herald was fretting over the potential fallout from the investigation, such as the damage to the police, the judicial system, and the municipal administration, that some have suggested the underpinnings of the state and democratic institutions under threat. Magistrates, politicians, journalists, businessmen, policemen, and sportsmen are lining up to be questioned as part of the inquiry. Police were under fire, scrambling to explain why many of Allegre's murder victims had been officially listed as suicides. The investigation was being expanded to include 20 additional cases. And a French magazine, as The Guardian reported, had revealed allegations that the former mayor, Dominique Baudy, had sexual relationship with the murderer, Patrice Allegre. Also in June 2003, Michel Barrot was appointed as the prosecutor general for the case. His appointment immediately raised concerns among lawyers, according to The Observer, owing to the fact that Barrot had previously been credited with stopping an investigation into corruption among senior right-wing politicians in Paris before last year's general election. Barrot was, in other words, no stranger to political cover-ups. Before the month was out, the evidence in the case, according to the Reuters headline, had evaporated. Allegre reneged on his confession after one of the prostitute witnesses purportedly admitted lying about seeing senior officials at S&M orgies. She was promptly jailed, recalling the jailing of witnesses in the Franklin case. One of the two prostitutes who accused Ali Gray of procuring young women for politicians to chain to walls and abuse in sadomasochistic orgies has been placed behind bars as judges investigate the authenticity of her story. With the cover-up firmly in place, the European media moved on to other things. Henry Lee Lucas's story, then, as bizarre as it may initially appear to be, is certainly not without precedents or parallels. Other events that have transpired since Henry first began telling his tales of the hand of death led further credence to various aspects of his story. For example, the Finders case discussed in Chapter 6 illustrated that there are, in fact, coordinated efforts by networks of individuals to transport abducted children to clandestine locations in Mexico. Of course, Henry could have just been making lucky guesses when he talked about the networks of satanic cults running murder for hire operations and child abduction rings. And there could be nothing to the fact that Toole, who was convicted in the state of Florida, shared with Henry the fate of having his death sentence commuted. Florida is, of course, a state that is also overly zealous in application of the death penalty, although not zealous enough to execute the likes of Otis Toole. In any event, it's interesting that both of these men had their death sentences set aside in the state that was until January 2001 run by a member of the Bush family. It is interesting also to whoopsies. It is interesting to take note of the case of the man known as the Railroad Killer, Rafael Resendez Ramirez. On July 13th, 1999, Ramirez was reported to have walked across a bridge from Juarez, Mexico into El Paso, Texas, and turned himself in. At the time, he was wanted for a string of 9 alleged serial killings. Mirroring the circumstances surrounding Henry's final arrest, Ramirez had been taken to custody several weeks prior by U.S. Border Patrol, only to be promptly released. Despite his presence on the FBI's most wanted list, and despite the issuing of alerts to immigration services, and despite the fact that a nationwide manhunt was underway. Well, let's see, that was 99, so who was in office? Anyway, between this detainment and its surrender, Ramirez claimed 4 more victims. Apparently, he still had a little work left to complete. Having done so, Ramirez was then made the incomprehensible decision to surrender to Texas authorities. Crossing the border into Texas, Ramirez left a country with no death penalty and entered the execution capital of the Western world. The Los Angeles Times, in reporting on his surrender, noted that he was adamant he wanted to surrender to a Texas Ranger, and he had not requested an attorney and was cooperating with detectives. In the same article, it is noted that authorities say Ramirez is strikingly intelligent. Strikingly intelligent, not based on the actions he took on July 13th, 1999. But then again, perhaps Ramirez knows something about the Texas judicial system that the rest do not. Interestingly enough, Lucas was reportedly fascinated by the Ramirez case. While the manhunt was underway, he told the Houston Post, "The rest of the chapter is corrupted."
And that's it. That's the cliffhanger.
That's the cliffhanger. Amazing. Yeah. That's beautiful. I love it. You love to see it. Yeah. Hold on. Here's the end of it, actually. The last thing that he said was, I follow his case on TV. I'd like to meet him. They presumably wouldn't have much to talk about. Ramirez, would have much to talk about. Ramirez, by the way, was born in Matamoros, Mexico, and according to his mother, was raised there outside the home by non-family members. Alarming. At some time I have started to hear funny voices, like a person calling me, but no one called me. Rafael Resendez Ramirez, in a letter to a reporter in Houston following his surrender to authorities. Can I tell you who I really am without a secrecy that's in the family? Only have one purpose in life, and that's to express some of my views and some of the views that I've been instructed. Anything I can put down Christianity, anything I put down democracy, anything I put down freedom. Rafael Resendez Ramirez delivering his closing argument to a jury in St. Louis, March 1989. And that's the end of the chapter. Well, that's it, folks.
We're getting closer. We're getting closer, my friends.
We're getting. We're not that close.
I know.
We're at chapter 9 of 22. So, yeah. Yep.
LMD special on the 2017 Finders releases. That does. Oh, I would have to use so much AI to comb through that because I ain't reading that shit. But if you all get really friendly with the super chats, I might consider it.
We can maybe we'll just read primary sources and it'll be hell.
It'll be
it'll be actual hell. Yeah.
It'll be less disturbing than the collected greatest hits.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
On the Gooning article, we need to do an LMD. Yeah. Oh, Geo.
Where's your LMD on the Gooning article? What is what the
there could be so many Gooning articles.
There's so many Gooning articles. I would do a LMD special on the 2017 Finders release. I would do that. All right. Sandbatch, you got anything coming up before next Monday? Any fun things happening?
I'll be back on the Substack, and I might reactivate Twitter.
Would be nice.
If I reactivate Twitter, though, there will be big announcement. If I don't, then there won't be. It's like Groundhog's Day right now.
All right. Well, cool. There's not going to be a drive time movie night this Wednesday because it is New Year's Eve. So enjoy that. Happy New Year, everyone. Merry Christmas if we didn't get to you last week. And goodbye for now.
You're discouraged from questioning and thinking critically. You must accept the word of the leaders. They make you feel guilty if you do question or argue. Your environment is often controlled, cutting you off from friends, family, school, previously held beliefs. They want you to become dependent, provide a poor diet, poor health care, little sleep, and long, exhausting hours of work to make you physically weak and lower your ability to think clearly. Subtly, your self-confidence gets undermined, and your self-image or sense of identity is changed. The leaders control channels of communication. They cut off or put down outside sources of information. Then they bombard you with what they want you to think. They use strong peer pressure, playing on your desire to be loved and accepted. The leaders may promise rewards if you obey them and punishment if you don't, but they alternate harshness and leniency in order to confuse you. The leaders manipulate language, giving special meanings to words that only insiders understand. This is to make you feel like you're part of a special, important, or elite group, and that outsiders are inferior, dangerous, or doomed. You have to confess your shortcomings, mistakes, or misbehavior, sometimes even if these things never really happened. And meanwhile, your time and activities are tightly controlled. You don't have much privacy or energy or time to think because you're too busy doing monotonous, repetitive tasks. The leaders try to control you and even your sexuality, everything about you. They want to exploit you for their own enrichment, their own power or grandiosity. If they succeed, you will declare your loyalty unto its leaders, rejecting your old values and way of life. Without realizing it, you will have been changed into a person who is being controlled by a totalist cult.